Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Died and Got Reborn in Rosario plus Vampire movie. Before we start, please go support Draconarius23 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Dying and being reborn was the result of his decision. A new life in a new world for him. Reborn as a dragon in a world where Yokai live hiding from humans. Now Issei Haidu will attend a Yokai academy after a peculiar encounter with someone who would change his new life forever. Although it won't all be easy, and with a group that's up to no good, along with an ancient evil that threatens to awaken and conquer the world, Issei and company will now have to do everything possible to stop the end of this world. Soon. In a new world with a new goal. The hero who sacrificed his life for the greater good. Reborn as a dragon in a world that is anything but normal. Issei Haidu will have to face the situations he finds himself in, whether by choice or by chance. But nothing will be easy when a group of malevolent yokai conspire to bring an ancient evil back into the world. But unbeknownst to them, a much larger problem is brewing, originating from beyond the stars, with the aim of consuming this world. Now Issei, along with his allies, will have to stop all of that while trying to study normally at Yokai Academy. Prologue: a new life in the Yokai world. Being reborn was difficult, especially in a world where you don't know much. Issei, after being sent to reincarnate in another world with the help of Chimunchipeyote, ended up being raised by a kind elderly couple in Tokyo. His life wasn't so bad, since the two old people were very loving towards him and raised him like their own grandson. The strange thing was that they had the same names as their grandparents in their world. Yuzo and Rika, although their surnames were different, Rikido. The couple had lost their only son 35 years ago when he was working for the police. He died in a raid on a criminal group. Their son, Issei, was killed. They were devastated, as their only son was taken from them while fulfilling his duty. They had no grandchildren because Issei was always immersed in work, and therefore their relationships never progressed beyond girlfriends, leaving the couple's hope of having grandchildren in vain. Issei was the light that came into their lives, and Issei had to give his all for those two old people who took care of him, as if he were his family. Now, as a humanoid dragon in another world, he first had to get to know the terrain and see if there was any indication of anything out of place or supernatural. It didn't take him long to come across strange creatures that only came out at night and in remote places, or humans with energies higher than ordinary humans. It was a fact, this world was not normal. In the end, he discovered, through some books he found in the attic of the house where he lives with his grandparents, that this world has yokais, or at least that's what all the supernatural beings in this world are known as. He didn't know if there were gods, but if there were, they wouldn't be like the ones in his world, and that was more than clear. But that in mind, he would begin an exhausting training regimen in true Saitama style, of course, hoping not to go bald and that it was just something from the anime. He didn't want to lose his hair. Issei trained from the age of 5 onwards, and with a body like his, which was not at all normal, he knew he could become someone powerful. His life would be limited to the school his grandparents sent him to, a strange encounter with certain yokai who didn't end up doing anything to him or training him. It was when he turned 8 that he made a huge discovery. He had the boosted gear, or at least a copy of it. Apparently, Drake didn't want to send him away empty-handed, and knowing that Issei might have problems, he gave him a copy of all his abilities as a parting gift, since he wanted the name of the Sekiryuutei to be heard even in another world and to be revered by the gods themselves. Issei felt happy to have met someone like Drake, and now he would have to add another training session to his already exhausting training. She learned to control Tauki and magical energy, and now she needed to be strong for any problem that might come her way, because knowing her luck, something could happen at any moment in her new life. He passed primary school easily, since being an adult in a child's body, the subjects were easy for him. Another thing I take advantage of is that he already knew things to learn new ones, since that would make his studies easier and, by default, he was now an intelligent boy. In middle school he met a peculiar person, a beautiful girl named Tsubasa Hanakawa, a girl who became his friend and whom he had his sight set on because of the power that lay within her, since she gave off yaki, undetectable to normal people, but not to Issei. But the chestnut-haired man said nothing, since he didn't see why he should confront Tsubasa when there were more yokai among the humans, so he let things continue as normal. Thus his life continued peacefully while he contacted the two yokai he met in his childhood, spent time with Tsubasa, and trained. Now 17 years old, his power is almost the same as it was in his world, although it could increase further, all due to something that happened to him months before he headed to the place where he will go. Tokyo bus stop. Waiting for the bus that would take him to his new academy, Issei Rikido was wearing the uniform of the academy he would be attending. How much longer will it take? He asked, somewhat frustrated, standing and looking to see if the academy bus was coming. Issei changed during these years, perhaps it was the rebirth in another world, but now he was very different from his former self, although it didn't bother him. The training gave him a toned and athletic body, and although they may not be noticeable, his muscles are there, compacted, but they are there. A week ago he received the admission letter that person had promised him, and now he was here, waiting for the bus that would take him to his new academy. Then he felt a strange feeling and, turning to his left, he looked at him. A strange and suspicious-looking bus, which gave off a strange aura around it and which many seemed to ignore. The bus stopped in front of him, and when the doors opened, he looked at it. "Bus heading to Yokai Academy," said the suspicious-looking driver with a terrifying aura, who looked at Issei with a smile. "Be strong," Issei thought seriously as he boarded the bus and took a seat in the middle. The driver closed the doors and started the journey. Issei looked out the window while waiting for the bus to arrive at the academy. "Are you the student who will be entering Yokai Academy?" the driver asked, drawing Issei's attention. Yes, it's me," Issei replied, surprised by the question. In that case you'd better prepare yourself now, because Yokai Academy is a terrifying academy," haha commented the driver, and Issei nodded. The journey continued without further conversation. Issei watched as the bus entered a tunnel that quickly changed in a strange way due to the multiple colors that surrounded the place. A dimensional bridge and we're entering a barrier, they really have everything prepared for this, Issei thought calmly, having sensed all of this and already having experience with this kind of thing. After a few minutes, the bus stopped in a strange place, with a creepy forest to its left and an old building in the distance, while to its right, there was a cliff overlooking an apparently red sea, with Tokyo visible in the distance. "We've arrived, kid," the driver announced, and Issei got off the bus. As he stepped off, the man spoke again, "Be careful," and with that, the old man closed the bus door and drove off through the same tunnel. "Be careful maybe of someone like her, but I'm not too scared right now," the brunette said to himself, looking at his arms, and then sighed. "I'd better go," he said to himself, starting to walk with his things towards the forest along the only path he could see. The new life and as such, a new academy, the new life of Haidu Issei, a dragon among yokai, is just beginning, without knowing what the future holds for him. Chapter 1 Memories 1. No pictures because there's no budget. Yokai Academy Forest. There was Issei, walking along a path through this eerie forest. A few minutes ago, he began his journey to Yokai Academy, which will be his new educational center in this new life. I hope she's here, he thought, bored, remembering that person he had met only half a year ago. That person was the one who gave him the key to knowing perfectly that this world is full of mysteries and secrets to humans. He still remembers that encounter, something disturbing for others, but for him, it was just peculiar. And to think I would meet a blonde vampire, he thought, amused, remembering that woman. Flashback 6 months ago streets of Tokyo. It was late afternoon, turning into night, in the streets of Tokyo. On one of the many streets of Japan's capital, a chestnut-haired boy could be seen wearing a high school uniform. This boy is Rikido Issei, who after a chat with his friend, Tsubasa Hanakawa, which took a strange turn when she talked about vampires and such, although he saw her lace panties, they said goodbye and each went home. Issei stopped by a store to buy his late-night snack. Today was Friday and he would do his homework on Sunday, since it wasn't that hard for him. He would spend his time playing Resident Evil 6 and finally finish the campaign of the Hexiata Wong. One of the longest games in the franchise, he said to himself as he walked calmly. Night was slowly approaching, and that was noticeable from miles away. Although there was something strange about the street. "Is it just me, or is it darker than usual?" he asked, using his night vision. Without further ado, he noticed the street lights. Of the 8 that were on a stretch of road, almost all were off except for one, and what was under the light, what was from that specific street light, was what caught his attention. And it made him get serious. "I walk until I'm near that lamppost, and there I hear her. She said in an ancient dialect, and Issei looked at her seriously. "Can you help me?" she asked, looking at the brunette. Indeed, she was a woman, you might say, a prostitute in trouble. Some homeless woman or woman who needs help for some reason. Well, the woman did need help, and good help at that, since she is in a very, very deplorable state. The woman herself is not any of the aforementioned, that would have been better. She has long platinum blonde hair that looks silky and well-groomed. Golden eyes, like pure gold, but cold. Fair, almost pale skin, as soft and delicate as a doll's. Wearing a beautiful elegant red dress, or at least that's how she looked before her current state. The woman herself is beautiful, the most beautiful he's ever seen, and he's seen idols, models and actresses on television. She has a spectacular body with large breasts, a narrow waist, and wide hips. But there is a detail, or rather, several details. Firstly, because he is missing both arms and legs. The right arm from the elbow. The left arm from the shoulder. The left leg from the thigh. The right leg from the knee. Her dress was torn to shreds in several places and she was sitting in a pool of her own blood. "Can't you hear me? Help me a little," she asked when she saw that Issei was just staring at her in a monotonous way. "What happened to you?" Issei asked, speaking for the first time and looking into the beautiful blonde's golden eyes. The woman said nothing, but after a few seconds she responded. "A little fight, now I need you to give me your blood," she asked, sounding more like an order than anything else. "You say little one, it seems more like they wanted you dead," Issei said, ignoring her request. "You seem very calm despite seeing me in this state," she said, looking at the brunette who looked back into her eyes. "I've seen worse, so seeing you like this isn't anything out of the ordinary," Issei said, remembering his world when he used to kill the enemy. She didn't say anything and then spoke again. "My name is Kissshot Acerola or Ironheart Underblade, the cold-blooded, hot-blooded and steel-blooded vampire." Acerola introduced herself to the chestnut-haired man, who nodded. "I'm Rikido Issei, a normal guy, so to speak," Issei introduced himself, but he saw how she started sniffing and looked at him seriously. "You're not human," Acerola said, as Issei smiled slightly. "Did you notice?" he asked, and she nodded. "But I don't know what you are," she commented, and Issei looked at her calmly. "I'm a dragon," he said, making her gasp in surprise. "That can't be possible, dragons became extinct in the 100 Years' War in France when that red dragon and that white dragon fought to the death," Acerola said, surprised, and Issei was surprised by that fact. "Are you talking about Albion and Y Drake Gotch?" Issei asked, surprised. "How do you know those names?" she asked, since not everyone knows those names. "That doesn't matter. Now, changing the subject, I know you're a vampire, but don't vampires regenerate or something?" he asked, confused. He wasn't very familiar with the yokai of this world. "First of all, not all vampires do that. I'm the only one who does it since the last of those vampires died. Besides, I can't regenerate because I lost a lot of blood and if I keep going like this, I could die," Acerola said, and Issei nodded. "That's why you're going to give me some of your blood, so I can at least heal," she said proudly, while Issei frowned. "And what makes you think I'll give you my blood?" Issei said seriously, leaving her speechless. "Huh?" was all that came out of her mouth, surprised by the answer. "I only came to look, I'm not obligated to give you my blood and you have no right to demand such a thing from me," Issei said more seriously. "She might be beautiful, but nobody tells her what to do, nobody." Acerola was shocked. She hadn't expected such a blunt response from Issei. "You're joking, right?" she asked, feeling a lump in her throat, but Issei's serious gaze only made that lump feel stronger. "Will you help me?" she asked, her voice breaking, feeling like she was about to burst into tears. Issei looked at her without saying anything, although he began to feel sorry for her since she seemed desperate. Acerola couldn't take it anymore and began to shed tears and looked at Issei. I don't want to die, please help me," she pleaded, falling to the ground, but Issei caught her quickly. "Ah, woman, where is your vampire pride?" he asked, holding Acerola in his arms, not caring that she was getting blood on him. "Please, help me, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to disappear, please," she pleaded, truly not wanting to die. "Ah, okay, I'll help you," Issei said calmly, while she looked at him in surprise. "Really?" Acerola asked the chestnut-haired man. "Yes, but stop crying, it's ruining your beautiful face," said the chestnut-haired man, who carefully wiped the tears from the vampire's face, who let him. "But you could die," she said, thinking he would back down from this. I've already died 3 times, a 4th wouldn't make a difference," Issei said, smiling calmly, surprising Acerola with that. 3 times? How is that possible?" she asked, confused and surprised. "One was because of a woman who manipulated me, the second was when my body was destroyed by a powerful poison, and the third was when I gave my life to save everyone," Issei said, further confusing the woman. "But that doesn't matter, take some of my blood and recover now," Issei said, as Acerola looked at him for a few moments and nodded. "Okay," she said, and with that she brought her face close to Issei's neck, sinking her teeth into that spot. She had barely tasted the first sip of his blood when her eyes widened. "His blood is it's delicious," she thought as she began to drink Issei's blood. The chestnut-haired man, for his part, embraced her body, sitting her on his lap, although he felt how she moved the 2 stumps that should be her legs, and tried to hug his waist. Little by little, Issei lost consciousness and only thought of one thing. "I would have liked to say goodbye to Tsubasa-chan," the brunette thought before falling unconscious. Then flashback present day. Issei snapped out of his thoughts when he heard something coming from the bushes. He prepared for anything except what happened next. "Hi-ya." A female scream was heard when Issei saw a pink-haired girl emerge from the bushes on an out-of-control bicycle. "Watch out. I'm going out of control," she shouted when she noticed Issei. The front wheel of the bicycle hit a rock, causing the girl to fly through the air. "Hi-ya." she screamed as she saw him go flying, so she closed her eyes waiting for the impact, which never came. Huh? She felt a warm sensation, and when she opened her eyes, her emerald green eyes met the honey-colored eyes of the brunette who was looking at her with concern. "Are you okay?" Issei asked the girl he was carrying like a princess. The girl couldn't help but blush, since it was the first time anyone had carried her like that. "I am, yes, it's just anemia," she said, looking nervous and blushing. Issei noticed that and left her standing on the ground. "Oh, I understand, but if you're like this, it's best you don't ride your bike. If I hadn't caught you, you would have hurt yourself badly," Issei said, and she nodded. Issei looked at the state of the bike, and although it was fine, it still needed the front tire inflated. "By the way, why are you anemic?" Issei asked, knowing that even though he realized she exuded the same feelings as Acerola, he didn't want to say anything if she didn't speak. "Oh, that's it, I'm a vampire," she said nervously at the end, since, due to her bad experiences, revealing her race doesn't exactly help her. "Oh, I see, that means you need some blood," Issei said, and she looked at him in surprise. "Aren't you afraid?" she asked. "Why should I?" Issei asked, confused. "Well, most people are terrified of vampires," she said, and Issei understood. "Oh, that's right, but I'm not like them. What's more, I have a vampire friend," Issei said, remembering Acerola. This clearly surprised a pink-haired girl, making her smile. "Oh, really? That's great," she said with a cheerful smile. "My name is Akashi Mocha, nice to meet you," she introduced herself, and Issei smiled at her cheerful attitude, although the rosary around her neck gave off a darker feeling. "The seal, perhaps that's where your true form resides," Issei thought, then smiled at Mocha. "I'm Rikido Issei, nice to meet you, Akashi-san," he introduced himself calmly. "Tell me, Mocha," Mocha said with a smile. "Well, you tell me Issei or Ice," said the brunette with a smile. "Hi Ice," she said with a radiant smile. Issei smiled at that, but he saw how she almost fell, so he caught her. "You seem to be running on fumes," Issei commented. "I'm sorry, it's just that I haven't had anything to eat since this morning, I left home early," she explained, sounding a little weak. "Well, whatever, have some of mine," Issei said, offering his neck to the pink-haired girl who was surprised. "Really?" she asked, surprised by the brunette's offer. "Yes, no problem, take it with confidence," said Issei, after all, a certain blonde sucks his blood like a leech, and he doesn't mind Mocha doing it. "Oh okay," she said, bringing her face closer to Issei's neck and unconsciously sniffing a little. "It smells good." She blushed at that, but continued with what she was doing. "I did Akamasu Kapuchu," and she began to suck Issei's blood. When she tasted the first sip, she felt ecstasy, her eyes wide open. His blood is delicious," she thought as she drank from Issei's neck, though she knew little that she was experiencing another feeling, as her face turned red. Issei wasn't bothered, he felt no discomfort or weakness, after a while she separated from him after taking 1 liter of his blood, and there he saw Mocha's expression. "Damn, first Emerald, then Acerola, and now her. Is my blood some kind of aphrodisiac for vampires?" Issei thought, looking at Mocha's blush and erratic breathing. Your blood is the most delicious thing I've ever tasted in my life," Mocha commented, still in ecstasy. "Yes, I've been told that before," Issei commented, recalling Acerola's near grapes. "Ice, thank you, you helped me a lot by giving me your blood," said Mocha, now calmer and smiling tenderly at the brunette, who smiled back. "Like I said, no problem, when you feel weak and need some blood, you can ask me with confidence, Mocha-chan," Issei said with a smile, and she blushed at that, but she was also happy. "Yes, I'll keep that in mind," she said. "Yes, well, I think we'd better hurry before we get late," said Issei, and Mocha nodded. She was going to take her bicycle, but Issei took the bike with ease. "Let me help you with this," Issei said with a smile that the pink-haired girl liked more and more. "Thank you," she said, and then they both headed towards the academy. This encounter was only the first of many he would have at Yokai Academy, and his day had barely begun. Rooftop of the academy. There she was, kiss-shot Acerola or Ironheart Underblade wearing a teacher's outfit that was somewhat tight on her hexy body, looking in the direction where Issei and Mocha were. "Ah, so soon and you already know a girl, you really are incorrigible, Ice," she said with an amused smile, "although I hope that by giving that girl his blood, he doesn't leave me without my share," she said to herself, licking her lips while blushing as she remembered the sensation that Issei's blood gave her. "You seem happy," said another female voice behind Acerola. The blonde with golden eyes looked over her shoulder at the woman who had just arrived. "Oh, it's you. Are they already calling us for the opening ceremony?" Acerola asked calmly. "Yes, although I see you're interested in something," said the woman, approaching Acerola and looking towards the forest. The newcomer focused her gaze and, after finding what Acerola was seeing, smiled at a brown-haired boy smiling while chatting with a pink-haired girl. "Oh, so boy, huh? she said, interested, since from that place she could feel Issei's power. That's interesting, she said, interested. Right. Ice is an interesting and nice person, Acerola said with a proud smile. Oh? Is the great iron-blooded vampire interested in a brat? The woman asked mockingly, but Acerola didn't even flinch. Is there a problem with that? Ice is one of the few interesting men around, and besides, I like him, Acerola said matter-of-factly, surprising the woman. Wow, I didn't expect you to accept it so easily, she said, looking at Acerola. It's pointless, besides, you've known me for years and you know I don't like to beat around the bush, said the blonde, and the woman just sighed. Just calm down, okay? We're teachers now, and as such, we have to abide by the rules, even if it's annoying. But that's how things are. So if you're going to flirt with a boy, do it secretly or in one of your ways. We'd better go now, since the ceremony is about to begin, the woman said as she walked towards the rooftop door. Ah, you're right, but anyway, let's go, Acerola said as she followed her friend. Yes, the day had barely begun. Chapter 2 First day of class equals problems. Half an hour later. The ceremony ended and Issei had separated from Mocha a while ago, but they promised to meet for lunch to get to know the academy. Now he was going in search of his new classroom. The chestnut-haired boy walked through the hallways, attracting the attention of the occasional student who saw him, but he didn't care much about that. However, when turning a corner, he collided with someone, knocking him to the ground. Hiya. Was the small cry the girl let out as she fell to the ground. Issei quickly approached her and was surprised to see her. Wow, she's beautiful, Issei thought as he looked at the girl. And it was no wonder, since she is beautiful. With beautiful deep blue hair, almost snowy white skin, and a stunning body that is accentuated even in her Yokai Academy uniform, this girl is beautiful. Ouch, did Juvia just run into a wall? Wondered the girl named Juvia as she looked up to find Issei's worried face, which made her blush. He's handsome, she thought, blushing. Are you alright? Issei asked, looking at the blue-haired girl who reacted to that. Oh, yes, Juvia is fine, she replied quickly. She speaks in the third person, how cute, Issei thought with a smile. Let me help you, he said, extending his hand for Juvia to take. Thank you, she said, taking Issei's hand, though she blushed at the thought. After helping her to her feet, Issei spoke. Sorry for knocking you down, I didn't mean to, I was just a little distracted, Issei apologized to the girl, who shook her head. No, Juvia was lost and didn't pay attention to where she was going, Juvia said, making Issei sigh. Well, I apologize anyway, Issei said, and she looked at him. Well, see you later, I'm already late for my class, Issei said, waving goodbye to the girl who just watched the way he left. After a few minutes of searching, he finally found room 1-3. Issei opened the door and noticed that most of them were already in their places, although the teacher wasn't there, which made things easier for him. Under the gaze of several, Issei went to sit in the row near the window, ending up next to a blonde guy with an idiotic face who looked at him out of the corner of his eye, but he ignored him. Then the teacher arrived, an attractive woman whom Issei knew was a catwoman. She introduced herself as Shizuka Nekonim and would be in charge of the class. Then she began to explain the reason for the Yokai Academy, which is to help Yokai learn to live with humans without being discovered, because there are more humans than Yokai in the world. Just then someone knocked on the door, and Nekonim went to open it, only to find, to Issei's surprise, that it was Mocha outside. Sorry for being late, but I got lost, Mocha apologized, feeling embarrassed about it. Don't worry, come in and introduce yourself, then take a seat, Nekonim said with a smile, and Mocha nodded. Her presence attracted the attention of 99% of the male students in the classroom because of how beautiful the pink-haired girl was, while Issei was calm, since he had already gone through that phase, although his teenage hormones sometimes affected him. Nice to meet you, I'm Akashi Mocha, I hope we can get along well while we're together, Mocha introduced herself with a beautiful smile, making all the boys go crazy. She then looked around for a seat, only to smile beautifully when she saw Issei, who smiled back at her. Ice, it's great that we're in the same classroom. Mocha shouted, surprising everyone, as she jumped to hug Issei, who reciprocated the girl's action. Haha, yes, it's nice to be with someone I know, Issei said calmly. The pink-haired girl took a seat opposite Issei at the empty desk, smiling broadly at being with her first friend. Although Issei noticed the annoyed and envious looks from all the boys, the brunette glanced at everyone out of the corner of his eye, while his eyes shone with a terrifying green color that scared them a lot, although the blonde frowned. Alright, now that everyone's here, let me reiterate the academy rules, Nekonim said, drawing everyone's attention. First of all, it's absolutely and strictly forbidden to be in your Yokai form at the academy, so you must remain in your human form at all times. Second, fighting is prohibited on school grounds. We don't want you causing any trouble. And lastly, you must not reveal what Yokai are, Nekonim said, and several people nodded in agreement. What a load of crap, said the blonde guy with a bad boy look to Issei's right. Why should we follow these rules? We can just kill humans, and in the case of girls, just grape them, he said, earning annoyed looks from several girls in the area. Although that didn't affect Nekonim. Kamiya Saizu-kun, right? Nekonim said, and the guy nodded. That's simple. Since this academy was created, it was stipulated as a paradise for Yokai, so they can learn to blend in with humans without causing problems, Nekonim explained, but the guy scoffed. Well, I smell a human nearby, Saizu said, drawing everyone's attention. Well, although a human can't enter this place under any circumstances, it could be that one of your companions is a witch or something similar. After all, witches and warlocks are the ones who exist between humans and Yokai, she explained, and the boys calmed down. Issei realized that all of this made sense, since Acerola told him many things and introduced him to some of her friends who were very powerful witches. See if you can guess who they are. Saizu glanced sideways at Issei, but then paid attention to the classes. Well, now that everything's explained, it's time to start classes, Nekonim said with a smile. And so the classes began. Issei's classes consisted of English with Nekonim, who congratulated him on how good he was at it, math with a hexy teacher named Ruriko Kagam who didn't take her eyes off him, then art with one teacher, then physics and finally literature with 2 other teachers. Thus classes ended and Issei and Mocha went out together to explore the academy. The two walked down the hallways to the first floor of the building. Of course, they were under the jealous gazes of the men towards Issei for being with someone like Mocha, but the brunette didn't care and continued with the vampire. There in a corner, as they were talking, someone interrupted them. But how beautiful, your name is Akashi Mocha, right? Saizu said, approaching the duo. I'm your partner, Kamiya Saizu, hello beautiful, the dyed blonde greeted, now standing in front of the two, ignoring Issei. Issei looked at the guy seriously, but did nothing. He wanted to see what he wanted. Mocha, for her part, became uncomfortable with the blonde's presence and clung to Issei a little. Saizu saw that and got annoyed, so there were more of them, and under the surprised gaze of others, he grabbed Issei by the collar of his shirt and lifted him up with ease. Issei let him, since that way he could use this as an excuse to strike back. Besides, what's a beautiful young lady like you doing with an idiot like this? Saizu asked Issei with a superior air. Ugh, he reminds me of Razor, Issei thought with annoyance, remembering the blonde phoenix at the beginning. From the second floor, a certain blonde with golden eyes was watching that intently. Aren't you going to stop this? The woman next to Acerola asked, to which the vampire shook her head. Aren't you worried about them hurting your friend? She asked, putting friend in quotes, since Acerola doesn't see Issei as a friend. The one you should be worried about is that blonde brat, Acerola said without taking her eyes off what was happening downstairs. The woman was confused, but decided to see what was happening. Alright, it's time you let go of me, Issei said, grabbing Saizu's wrist tightly, making him groan in pain. Ugh, you bastard. Kamiya growled in annoyance as he felt Issei's iron grip. The chestnut-haired man, now with his feet on the ground, subdued the idiot and made him kneel, still holding his arm. Listen carefully, idiot, because I'm not going to repeat myself, Issei said with great seriousness, tightening his grip, which hurt Saizu, who couldn't speak because of the pain. I don't like idiots like you who think they're so great, so you'd better avoid messing with Mocha-chan or me, unless you want to end up in a state your mother won't recognize. So you'd better, he said with a serious look that made the dyed blonde boy's hair stand on end. So you'd better leave before I kick your ass. And with that, he threw him to the ground, leaving him clutching his arm. Everyone looked at Issei with fear, since they did not expect him to confront and subdue someone like Saizu, who had gained a bad reputation in the human world. Saizu stood up in a rage, but decided to leave, although Issei would pay for it one way or another. Better watch your back, you idiot, and after saying that, Saizu left holding his arm. Issei just huffed. They always said the same thing. Ice, are you alright? Mocha asked, worried about her friend. Yes, Mocha-chan, don't worry about that, let's just get on with what we were doing, Issei said with a calm smile. Wow, always drawing attention, Ice-kun, said a female voice from behind the duo. Issei recognized the voice and when he turned around he found her. Just imagine the Yokai Academy uniform, and that's it. Tsubasa? Issei asked, not so surprised to see her at the academy. Haha, hello Ice-kun, she greeted, Tsubasa Hanakawa. Do you know her, Ice? Mocha asked the chestnut-haired man. Yes, she's actually a friend of mine I met in the human world. We studied at the same high school, Issei said, and Mocha nodded in understanding. Now she looked at Tsubasa. I can say I'm not surprised to see you here, but how have you been? She asked with a half smile. Yes, haha, I am surprised to see you here, but anyway, I'm fine, it's been a few months since we last saw each other, Tsubasa said with a half smile. Yes, but anyway, since you're here, would you like to join us? We were going to explore the area around the academy, the brunette invited the dark-haired girl, who looked at Mocha. Is it okay if I join you? Tsubasa asked the pink-haired girl, who smiled. Of course, the more the merrier, Mocha said, happy to be able to meet more people. Well, let's go then, Tsubasa said with a smile. And so the three of them went to see the place while they chatted. Whereas with Acerola. See what I told you? That blonde brat was the one who would come out worse against ice, said the blonde with a smug smile. Well, you're right, he subdued him very quickly, is he really that strong? Asked the woman next to Acerola. Haha, it's stronger than that, but well, let's go have lunch, I'm hungry, Acerola said, walking away from the place. The woman stared for a few seconds at where Issei had gone, then smiled slightly. Well, things might be interesting after all, she thought, leaving with the blonde. Moments later with Issei, Mocha and Tsubasa. So you knew for a long time that she was a yokai? Tsubasa asked, surprised. I had my suspicions. Your scent gave off a non-human essence, so I deduced that you might be a yokai, Issei declared, lightly tapping his nose with a finger. Pervert, Tsubasa said jokingly. So, you smell so good that it was impossible not to inhale your scent, Issei said with a playful smile that made Tsubasa blush. Why you pervert, the dark-haired girl said, blushing, but after a few seconds she composed herself and looked at Mocha. So, did you meet Ice-kun today? She asked, and Mocha nodded with a smile. Yes, he helped me a lot and we're friends now, Mocha said, smiling. Oh well, that's good. In high school, he only saw me as a friend. He's a very solitary person, so I'm glad you're his friend, Tsubasa said, smiling gratefully at Mocha. So let's be friends, okay? She added, making Mocha extremely happy. Yes, let's be friends. Mocha said, and Issei smiled at that. The three arrived at what would be their homes for this and the next school years. Wow, what a peculiar place, Issei said, looking at the building that seemed straight out of a horror movie. Wow, they have personality, Mocha said, marveling at the building. Issei and Tsubasa, who had been living in the human world since they were little, didn't really understand the tastes of yokai like Mocha, but they let her be. By the way, what kind of yokai are you? Mocha asked curiously, but then she realized her mistake. Oh, right, it's forbidden to talk about that, she said sheepishly. No problem, you told me who you were, and it's only fair that I tell you who I am, Issei said as Tsubasa looked at him. Are you sure? You could get into trouble, Tsubasa said worriedly. Nah, you don't have to worry, Issei said calmly, while Tsubasa sighed, but she was also curious to know what kind of yokai Issei was. What I am, well, I'm a dragon, Issei revealed, leaving both of them in shock. Mocha because she'd been told what kind of beings dragons were in ancient times, and Tsubasa because she hadn't expected her friend to be a yokai of that kind. Remember that all monsters are considered yokai, so dragons will also be considered yokai. Whoa, I didn't expect that, Mocha said, completely surprised. Much less me, who would have thought I'm friends with a dragon? Tsubasa said more calmly. Yes, the same thing happened with another vampire I met a few months ago, Issei said, recalling his encounter with Acerola and the things he did to help her. Well, since Ice-kun said he is, well, I'm a catwoman, Tsubasa revealed, her eyes turning golden as she gazed seductively at Issei. Meow, she winked at the brunette, but then her eyes returned to normal, and she blushed. And as you can see, I'm going through a personality change, she said, embarrassed by what she'd done. Well, that explains why you like tuna sandwiches and fried fish so much, Issei said, and the dark-haired girl blushed at that. Well, I'm a vampire, Mocha said, surprising Tsubasa. Really? But you don't look like one. You know, they say they're yokai with a very strong supernatural aura, silver hair, and red eyes, Tsubasa said, looking at Mocha, who was anything but. Yes, well, that's because of this, she pointed to the rosary around her neck, this is a seal that prevents my yokai form from surfacing, she explained, and Tsubasa was confused. It's because rosaries seal the power of vampires, Issei said, clearing up the girl's doubts. Oh, I understand, Tsubasa said, now understanding everything. Yes, but even though our powers are sealed, we still retain our thirst for blood, Mocha said, looking at Issei, who understood. Oh, you can take it, Issei said, leaving his neck exposed. Tsubasa was surprised. She would see live what she had only seen in movies, like a vampire sucking someone's blood. Thanks, said Mocha, quickly grabbing Issei's neck and pressing her lips to his neck and then burying her teeth in that same spot. Mocha felt an electric current run through her body after ingesting the first drops of Issei's blood, then blushed and felt slightly aroused. Issei left her, and Tsubasa was surprised by what she saw. After a few seconds and having drawn half a liter of blood from Issei, Mocha separated from him with a noticeable blush. Thank you for that, Ice, Mocha said with a shy smile. Haha, don't worry, you already know what I told you this morning, the brunette said calmly. Wow, that was interesting to see, Tsubasa said, a little jealous of how Mocha hugged Issei's neck. After that, the afternoon passed without anything else of note, although of course, a blue-haired girl was watching the trio intently, well, more at Issei than anything else. The next day room 1 to 3. A day had passed since Izu's incident and he hadn't come to class today, though no one seemed to care. Now everyone was looking at Issei, fearful that something might happen to them. If he did that to someone like Izu, what was stopping him from doing it to them? Now everyone was looking at the woman in front of them, a beautiful woman with long green hair, purple eyes and a seductive and voluptuous body dressed in a teacher's outfit, with a long-sleeved white shirt and a black skirt that clung to her hips and reached mid-thigh along with black stockings, in other words, a very sexy woman. Although her stern expression prevented all the men and some girls from staring at her any longer. She is very strong, Issei thought, sensing the power of the woman in front of them. Alright, being your history teacher, I'm Morrigan Eland, and yes, I'm that same Morrigan Eland who comes from Makai, so if you don't want trouble with me, you'd better pay attention to my class, Morrigan declared seriously, looking at everyone, although her gaze stopped on Issei's, and she smiled slightly, but then returned to her serious expression. Everyone agreed, since she was someone you wouldn't want to upset. So classes continued calmly until Mocha left to do some things in her dormitory and the chestnut-haired boy was left alone at the academy since Tsubasa went to do homework in the academy library. Now Issei was on the rooftop of the academy looking towards the terrifying forest when he heard footsteps coming behind him and then arms hugged him around the neck and golden hair settled to his left. You two smell good, Issei said with a half smile. What? Now you have a fetish for smelling women? Asked the blonde from Acerola mockingly, who was affectionately hugging Issei, who took her hands. Hi Ice, it's been so long, he said cheerfully. Yes, it's been about 2 months since then, Issei said, and she nodded. And it seems you already have some girlfriends, should I be worried about that? Acerola asked the brunette, who smiled amusedly. I don't think so. I mean, it's not like that bothered you. Didn't you tell me that no matter how many girls are around me, you'd be first in everything? Issei said, breaking free from the hug and turning around to face the blonde. Well, you're right, although I didn't expect that after only 1 day here, you'd already have the Akashi daughter by your side, and that cat girl, said the blonde, clinging to the brunette who hugged her around the waist as he leaned against the stone railing. Well, I met Mocha-chan yesterday, but I've known Tsubasa for a few years now, said the brunette as Acerola looked him in the eyes. Tell me, don't you want some? He offered his neck and she swallowed hard at that. Well, yes, she said, and moved closer to brush her teeth against Issei's neck, drawing blood. After a few seconds, she pulled away and moaned with pleasure. This is delicious, she said, leaving a kiss on Issei's neck, then cupped his cheeks and gave him a deep kiss on the lips. Issei returned the kiss with the same fervor. They kissed for a few minutes and then separated with a thread of saliva connecting them. Ah, I miss this, Acerola said, smiling with a blush on her face. I missed your lips too, Issei said, gently touching her lips. The two remained in comfortable silence while they were very close together. What's it like being a teacher? Issei asked when Acerola frowned. It's very troublesome, it's more complicated than I thought, having to make a study plan along with planning the tasks for each day, and all that. I cursed the day I accepted this shit, she said with annoyance as she put her head on Issei's chest, who stroked her golden hair. Even if you have many years of life, nothing will ever be easy for you. Some were born to be teachers and others weren't, so you should have thought before signing the contract, Issei joked with the blonde, who grunted in annoyance. And now I regret it, she complained, making Issei smile. Okay, don't torture yourself over it, you'll get used to it, said Issei, hugging the blonde who led him. The two remained like that for a few seconds when the chestnut-haired man became serious and gently moved Acerola aside, who looked at him strangely. What's wrong, Ice? The vampire asked. It's Mocha, she's in trouble, Issei said, sensing Mocha's aura was somewhat disturbed, along with an aura he recognized that annoyed him. Looks like I'll have to teach an idiot a lesson, he said seriously as he separated from Acerola. It's that brat from yesterday, right? She asked, knowing who he was. So what were you looking at, huh? Well, yes, it's him, and since he ignored my warning, I'm going to give him the beating of his life, Issei said, approaching the railing to stand on the other side and look towards the forest. See you later, and by the way, that teacher's outfit looks good on you, you look very sexy. And with that, he jumped to the ground from the top floor of the academy. Acerola approached and watched as Issei landed on his feet, creating a small crater where he fell, and then saw him start running at an impossible speed, disappearing among the trees. Just then, the sound of high heels could be heard coming from behind Acerola. Has Ice-kun already left? And I wanted to say hello, said a clearly female voice, with a touch of flirtatiousness and feigned sadness. What are you saying? You have to teach them tomorrow anyway, and you can approach him to talk whenever you want, Acerola said to the newly arrived woman who stood beside her, looking in the direction Issei had gone. Problems? The woman asked the blonde. Just a brat who bothered Ice, nothing serious, Acerola said dismissively. Well, I pity the poor soul who bothered the dragon, the woman said with a hint of mockery, but anyway, do you know it's not proper to be too close to your student? She said mockingly to Acerola, who remained unfazed. So what? The laws won't stop me from being near my lovely servant, Acerola said calmly. Oh, so you like those mistress and servant games, wow kiss shoot, but how daring the woman mocked the blonde who blushed at that. That's not it. Acerola shouted, blushing at the thought of something dirty related to what she had said. Moments before Forest. Mocha went to the dormitories to look for some things she had forgotten, but she didn't count on some idiot grabbing her by force and taking her out of the academy's territory. Haha, now I can have fun with you, Saizu said lasciviously, looking at the frightened pink-haired girl. No, let me go now. Mocha shouted, trying to get away from that imbecile. Saizu just smiled in a sick way. Haha, I like it when they get difficult, it's more exciting, Saizu said, licking his lips. Mocha got scared and backed away until she crashed into a tree, getting cornered, although the strange eye of her rosary began to glow. Saizu approached Mocha and stretched out his arm to grab her, but suddenly. Hey, I am. A powerful blow to his cheek sent him flying and crashing into a tree, breaking it. It seems that instead of a brain, you have shit inside that head, said Issei, arriving with a very serious expression, looking at where Saizu had ended up. Issei. Mocha shouted happily upon seeing Issei. Mocha, what happened? The brunette asked the pink-haired girl. I went to my bedroom to get some things, but he came and brought me here, he wanted to abuse me, Mocha said, feeling scared by what she had just said. Issei frowned and looked at Saizu who got up from the floor with his dirty clothes. You damned bastard. Saizu shouted, glaring at Issei. You only had to do one thing, one damn thing. But Nuo, the bastard wanted to act tough, said the brunette, loosening his tie and taking off his green vest, remaining only in his long-sleeved shirt and with a very serious look. Now you're really screwed, he declared, looking at the imbecile. You'll see, I'm going to break your arms and legs, then I'll let you watch as I grape her until she breaks and becomes my bitch, Saizu said, beginning to change. Saizu grew both in height and musculature, entering his Yokai form which was that of an orc. Issei looked at him without flinching. You really are ugly, Issei commented, mocking Saizu's shitty appearance. The man became annoyed and glared angrily at the brunette. I'm going to kill you. Saizu shouted, preparing to attack Issei, but then a shadow appeared at great speed from among the trees, cutting off the orc's left eye. Aya. He screamed in pain as his eye was cut. Standing between Issei and the orc Saizu, a white-haired girl with cat ears and a tail appeared, along with a playful expression, while her sharp claws could be seen. Well, it seems I arrived just in time, Naya, said Tsubasa in his Yokai form. Tsubasa, Issei said as the white cat turned around, looking at the brunette with a smile. Hello Naya, it seems they're up to something big here Naya, Tsubasa said, smiling. Upon hearing her pronounce the Naya, Issei was reminded of a certain two-tailed Nekomata who almost obtained his seed. Yeah, well, just an idiot who doesn't understand warnings, Issei said as Tsubasa approached him and smiled like a cat literally. Oh, but I think you can handle him on your own, Naya, Tsubasa said while making circles on Issei's chest with her index finger. So why don't we go out after this, you and I, Naya? She asked flirtatiously, surprising Issei with her change in personality. Damn it, miss, as much as I might want to, this isn't the time for this, said Issei, stroking the catgirl's head, who purred at that. Mocha pouted at the interaction between the two, but as Issei said, there were more important things to consider than Tsubasa's blatant flirting. You damn bitch, I'll grape you in front of that imbecile too. Saizu shouted, now completely out of his mind. Tsubasa frowned at that. I'm a cat Naya, you're stupid, besides, only Ice Naya can have my body Naya, you're not even half a man like him, Tsubasa said, surprising Issei and Mocha. Wait, how can you say those things in this situation? Issei said, looking at the cat who winked at him. Don't play coy, I know how you look at me, so if you ask me nicely I might give you what you want, Tsubasa said with a perverted smile. Ice won't do any of that, you crazy cat. Mocha shouted angrily, feeling jealous without understanding why. Issei just sighed, now he understood why Tsubasa was undergoing a personality change. You bastards, don't ignore me. Kamiya shouted angrily. Oh, shut your mouth, Issei said, tired of that imbecile's voice. Brrrrrrrrg, you've got on my nerves, I'll kill you and grape those bitches, and then kill them. Saizu screamed, beside himself. Issei frowned and looked at Saizu. You shouldn't have said that, and quickly appeared in front of Saizu, delivering a powerful blow to his chest that sent him flying into a tree. The orc stood up and lunged at Issei, but he forgot that he was not alone. "Don't you ever call me a bitch again, you bastard." Tsubasa shouted, appearing in front of Saizu and leaving deep claw cuts on his chest and face. "Ah. You damned bitch." Saizu yelled in pain. Issei gave him no respite and appeared at Saizu's face level, delivering a sidekick that knocked him to the ground. Issei landed gracefully on his feet while Tsubasa stood beside him, glaring at Saizu. "Stupid ogre, calling me a fox, can't you see my ears and tail?" Tsubasa said, offended. "Is that what bothers you?" Issei asked incredulously. Tsubasa shrugged. Issei was about to continue, but then he felt a small pulse of energy. He turned his gaze back to Mocha, no, to the rosary around her neck. It emitted a pulse of energy, and the eye-shaped crystal shone brightly. Issei approached the pink-haired girl, who looked at him confused. But he said nothing and, without further ado, removed the rosary from her neck, surprising her. "It can't be he managed to remove the seal," Mocha said when it happened. A strong supernatural energy began to be felt at the sight, and that's when Mocha changed. Her hair changed from pink to silver, her eyes from emerald green to blood red, her skin became lighter, and her body became more voluptuous. "No, this great supernatural power, silver hair and red eyes, there's no doubt the legendary S-class Yokai, a vampire," Saizu said, trembling with fear. And as he said, Mocha was now in her original form, that of a vampire who is Issei's eyes, she became powerful and more beautiful. Everything calmed down and vampire Mocha was there. The silver-haired girl glanced at Tsubasa for a moment, then looked at Issei. She met the brunette's gaze, and he held it. It was brief, but it felt long to both of them. Mocha knew it was a good thing to be on Issei's side. "It's nice to meet the real Mocha," Issei said with a half-smile. "So you knew," Mocha said calmly. "Yes, that rosary retains your true appearance, but also something more," Issei said, and Mocha nodded. "Anyway, I think you should take care of someone," he said, pointing at the nervous Saizu. "True," Mocha said, walking towards the orc. "You said you wanted to abuse me, well then, come and try it, of course, if an insect like you can," she said with an arrogant smile that annoyed Saizu. "Drrrr, you'll see, I don't give a shit if you're a vampire, I'll make you mine," and the idiot lunged at Mocha. She just huffed at that and got ready. "You insolent idiot, people like you aren't worth it," so Mocha appeared in front of Saizu and said, "Learn your place." She then unleashed a tremendous kick that broke the orc's face and sent him flying into some trees, leaving him in pieces. "Wow, she has great legs, she should be a soccer player," Issei remarked, eyeing Mocha's shapely legs. "Naya, stop staring at her legs," Tsubasa said, annoyed, and Issei looked away. Mocha walked towards them and looked at Issei. Issei looked back at her. He hadn't expected this Mocha. "It's interesting to see your true self," Issei said, as Mocha's eyes opened slightly in surprise. "So you knew it, huh?" Mocha said in a more mature voice. "Well, the aura that sealed the rosary and the Mocha outside didn't match at all, so I thought that the real Mocha is you," Issei commented, as Mocha smiled slightly. "You're smarter than you look, but that doesn't matter," Mocha said, walking until she was standing in front of the brunette. "You're more interesting. With so much power, you didn't finish off that idiot." "Why?" she asked curiously. "Why, if I had hit him seriously, I could have killed him," Issei said coldly, which surprised Tsubasa. "Kill him?" Tsubasa asked, somewhat nervously. "Ah, yes, there are times when I have to measure my strength or something bad could happen," said the brunette. You're interesting, hi to Issei, but for now I'll say goodbye. We'll talk more another time. But please, take care of my outer self." "She's too weak to take care of herself," Mocha said, smiling slightly as she took the rosary from Issei's hand and put it on him. The silver-haired Mocha left and became the Mocha that Issei and Tsubasa knew again, but she was unconscious. Issei caught the pink-haired girl before she got hurt. "Well, that was interesting, wasn't it?" Issei asked Tsubasa, who had returned to her normal form. "I know," she said with a half-smile, but then looked at the brunette, blushing. "By the way, everything I said before," but Issei interrupted her. "We'll talk about that later, for now let's take Mocha to the infirmary," Issei said, smiling kindly at the dark-haired girl who smiled back. "By the way, what are we going to do with him?" Tsubasa asked, pointing to the unconscious Aizu who had returned to his human form but was completely wrecked. "I don't really know," Issei said, showing no interest in the guy. "Don't worry, I'll take care of it," said a female voice coming from among the trees. The chestnut-haired man and the dark-haired woman saw a beautiful dark-haired woman emerge from among the trees. She was tall for the standard height in Japan, with short black hair, blue eyes hidden behind black framed glasses, fair skin with a mole below her lip on the left side, and a body that every woman would desire. Large breasts, a narrow waist, wide hips, and long, shapely legs. She dressed like a Hexi teacher in a white blouse and a mid-thigh black skirt, along with dark stockings and black high heels. Issei recognized her immediately. Bayonetta-sensei, said Tsubasa, recognizing the newcomer. Bayonetta, for her part, smiled at both of them, although she glanced a little at Issei. Well, guys, you should leave your friend in the infirmary. Shinobu-sensei told me about this, and I'll personally take care of young Kamiya's punishment, Bayonetta said with a smile, leaving them no choice but to accept. The two began to walk away, but Issei looked at the woman. Bayonetta winked at him, and Issei shook his head in amusement as he continued on his way. And so the duo carried the unconscious Mocha to the infirmary, thus ending the first day of classes. Of course, all of that was observed from a considerable distance by a mysterious girl with light blue hair, but that's a story for another time. Chapter 3 Succubus Problems. 4 days later. 4 days have passed since the Saizu incident. The subject was suspended from school for a long time, although Issei noticed that he was very scared the last time he saw him. He didn't want to know what Bayonetta did to the subject, but he didn't care either. Anyway, today was another school day, the last one of the week to be exact, being a Friday morning. The chestnut-haired boy walked alone towards the academy, while Mocha and Tsubasa headed to the academy early to finish some pending tasks. Issei was walking calmly when he heard a groan of pain from among the trees. Ah, so early and they're already bothering someone, the brunette complained, changing course to see what was happening. What a surprise he got when he saw a girl with light blue hair and huge breasts lying on the floor with erratic breathing. He recognized her since he noticed her at the end of the line to his right, but he didn't know her name. Issei approached her and picked her up. Hey, are you okay? Issei asked, sounding a little worried about her. By my chest, she said with some difficulty as Issei looked at those two large melons that surpassed Acerola's by a slight margin, but were smaller than Morrigan's. Better stop thinking about breasts. Okay, I don't know about ailments and diseases, but it sounds serious. I'd better take you to the infirmary, said Issei, picking up the girl in his arms while she smiled inwardly, thinking that his plan was working. The two were walking towards the academy, with a light blue-haired girl pressing her body very close to the brown-haired boy, who didn't even flinch. Issei-kun, please, look at me, she said, gently taking Issei's face in her hands. The chestnut-haired man left her to see what she would do, and when he looked into her eyes, he walked past her. She's trying to use her succubus charm on me, seriously? Issei thought as he watched the girl's stupid attempt to use her race's charm on him. The girl was surprised when she saw Issei's calm expression. She didn't fall under my spell, she thought, surprised. I see you, so what? Issei said, pretending to be confused. She reacted to that. Oh, well, I'm Kurumu Kurono, I hope we can be good friends, she said, smiling charmingly, and Issei smiled a little, making her blush slightly. Well, nice to meet you, said Issei smiling, making Kurumu blush even more. After that, the brunette took her to the infirmary and then went to class. She stayed there, surprised that the brunette didn't fall prey to her charm. I don't know how he did it, but it doesn't matter, I'll have him at my feet whether he likes it or not, Kurumu said with determination. Later that day. Well, I hope you don't fail to do your homework or we'll have problems, Morgan said, looking very seriously at everyone, causing several of them to become frightened. Then she left, but not before giving Issei one last look before leaving the room. Yes, it is terrifying, Mocha commented, somewhat nervously. Something, but well, let's have lunch, said Issei, and she smiled. The two left together to go look for Tsubasa, all while being seen by Kurumu, who was somewhat annoyed to see Mocha so close to Issei. The while passed and Issei had to return to the classroom. Damn it, of all the things I had to forget, it had to be my wallet, the brunette complained, going to where he kept his things. When he found his wallet, he smiled. Well, time to go back to the girls, he said, ready to return. Hi do, said Morgan, who returned to the classroom because she had also forgotten something. Aisland-sensei, said the chestnut-haired man, cautiously eyeing the woman who surpassed Acerola in power. The woman smiled and, using her powers, blocked all exits, making Issei nervous as he watched her approach him. Well, I was really looking forward to meeting Kissshot's relative, Morgan said, approaching the brunette with a seductive hip sway. So she knows, Issei said nervously about this woman. She could kill him if she wanted to. She smiled at Issei's nervousness and, standing in front of him, smiled seductively as she ran a finger along his chest. Yes, she never stops bragging about you, and well, I found you interesting, and boy, are you ever. Who would have thought that the legendary vampire would have a dragon as a familiar? You have no idea how much interest you aroused in my Issei-kun, Morgan said, smiling seductively. Issei was now nervous, 1 because the beautiful woman was very close to him, and 2 because he thought she might do something to him. Well, I don't know what to say, Issei said nervously. Fufu, how cute, you're nervous, she teased the brunette. Don't worry, I won't do anything you won't like, she said, and Issei swallowed hard, understanding what she meant. But still, I want to know what makes you so special that Kissshot talks about you so excitedly every time we talk, she said, and Issei was surprised by that. Does he really talk about me a lot? He asked, surprised. When she has the chance, she always speaks very highly of you, you drive her crazy, Morgan said, smiling amusedly. Wow, I didn't expect that, I feel happy, Issei said, smiling happily that Acerola, or Shinobu as he called her, spoke of him like that, how much he loved that woman. Yes, that's good. It's been a long time since I've seen her so happy, and that makes me happy, Morgan said, moving a little away from Issei and sitting down at one of the desks, looking at the brunette. And it's all thanks to you, she said, smiling slightly. Issei sat down at another desk in front of her. Well, I don't know what to say, although I like that she's happy. When I met her, I saw loneliness and sadness in her eyes. I didn't want to see her like that. I wanted to see her happy, and it seems I succeeded, said the brunette with a smile, as Morgan nodded. Well, as I said, I'm interested in you, so pay attention, because when I'm interested, I don't leave him alone, she said, smiling seductively. Issei blushed, which made her smile back. Well, I'll leave you now. I have things to take care of. We'll see each other again, I see icon she said as the brunette watched her leave or rather, her well-formed rear end squeezed into that skirt. When she left, the chestnut-haired man sighed. Damn, she's really hot, Issei said, then shook his head and went to find the girls. Morgan looked at him from afar with a smile. She expects great things from the chestnut-haired boy. What are you looking at? Asked a voice next to Morgan, which turned out to be Bayonetta. Oh, not much, I was just watching Kissshot's relative, Morgan said to the dark-haired woman who looked at the brown-haired man who disappeared around a corner. Oh, Ice-kun, what? Are you interested too? Bayonetta asked her colleague and friend. Something like that, but anyway, I'll see you later, I have things to do before I go to lunch, Morgan said, leaving a smiling Bayonetta behind. Wow, Ice-kun is getting more and more famous, said the dark-haired girl, smiling amusedly. What to say? The chestnut-haired boy was looking for the girls to go to lunch, but when he got to the stairs leading to the first floor, he saw Mocha and Tsubasa standing in front of Kurumi. This threw him off a bit since he didn't understand what was happening, so he decided to listen to what was going on. Akashi Mocha, you're an obstacle to my plan. Kurumi shouted, pointing at Mocha, who was confused. Huh? What are you talking about? Mocha asked, confused. She's crazy, Tsubasa commented, giving Kurumi a strange look. You're not exempt either, you're also an obstacle to my plans, Kurumi said, looking angrily at the dark-haired girl who didn't understand what she meant. I don't know what you're talking about, I don't even know you, Tsubasa said, confused and somewhat annoyed. HMPH, that's simple, my plan is to turn all the students of the academy into my slaves, said Kurumi, which shocked the two of them and the brunette. The plan to transform the Yokai Academy into a harem, she said, and that surprised the three of them and everyone who was listening, but especially the women. Okay, it's not that I think this is weird, but it's almost always the other way around, Issei thought, remembering that in his world there were women with harems, so he didn't take it as anything strange. Are you stupid? How could you say such a stupid thing? A harem of boys. Tsubasa said, somewhat disgusted at the thought. Mocha felt strange upon hearing that. Even her inner self had a WTF face. My plan was perfect, it was going well, but she was saying when she got annoyed and glared at the two of them, ever since you two have been hanging around, all the boys are following you, nobody even pays attention to me, and that bothers me. She shouted angrily at them both. Hey, calm down, that's not our fault, we don't even want that attention, Tsubasa said, annoyed. She only had eyes for one person. She didn't give a damn about the others. That's right, we're not to blame for anything, Mocha said, frowning. BRRR, well they do have it. But I won't let things like this, I've never lost a battle of feminine charm ever, and I'm not going to start now. Kurumi shouted in annoyance. Ah, what a troublesome girl, Issei thought, shaking his head. That's why I decided I can prove I'm better than you two, and I'll prove it by stealing Haidu Issei from you. He shouted, which surprised Issei, whose eyes widened in shock. But of course. Don't drag Ice-kun into your nonsense, you stupid bore. Tsubasa shouted angrily. She wouldn't let that cheap succubus involve Issei in these matters. That's right, Ice has nothing to do with this, what's more, we don't have anything to do with your things, Mocha said, annoyed. Issei smiled at that, but looked to see what was happening. It doesn't matter, I knew that since he entered this academy, he was special. He has an alluring scent, different from normal, almost like a human, Kurumi mentioned, blushing slightly, while the two girls grunted and frowned. Akashi asked you, Mocha, is his blood delicious? Oh, it must be, after all, you only see him as if he were food, she said, making Mocha feel bad about it, but Tsubasa wasn't going to let it go unpunished. Shut up, stupid. She's not like that. Ice-kun is a good friend of ours and Mocha doesn't see him as food, so take back what you said. Tsubasa yelled, making Kurumu angry. Never. She should only be near him because of his blood. That's how all vampires are. They only look out for what benefits them. Kurumu shouted angrily. Well, I'd better intervene before things get out of hand, Issei thought as he started down the stairs. Girls, sorry I'm late. I ran into Iinsland sensei in the hall and he said something to me, he said, feigning ignorance and looking around. Huh? What's going on here? He asked, looking at the three girls. Then Kurumu lunged at him. Issei-kun, thank you so much for earlier, Kurumu said, acting all innocent. Ice, stay away from her, you're being deceived by her. Mocha shouted, worried about the brunette. That's right, that girl started talking about us and saying she wants to distance you from us just because of some stupid plan she has in mind, Tsubasa said, annoyed with Kurumu. Issei looked at Kurumu who went into her actress mode. How awful, how can you say such things? Ah, I feel dizzy again, please Issei-kun, take me to the infirmary, said Kurumu, pretending to be convalescent and looking at Issei with a sad puppy dog face. Issei looked her in the eyes and this alerted both of them. Don't look her in the eyes. Tsubasa shouted, worried that the brunette would fall under her spell. Kurumu activated his ability, but the chestnut-haired man remained unfazed. Ugh, this is awful, he thought, growing tired of the situation. He looked at the girls and spoke, excuse me, I'll take Kurumu to the infirmary and don't worry, I'll be fine. The two girls looked at him with concern. Are you really going to be okay? Mocha asked. She knew what Sekiryuutei were capable of. Of course, don't worry about me, Issei said, looking at Kurumu and smiling at her, causing her to blush. Come on, I'll take you to the infirmary, he said, putting his left arm around her waist, making her blush even more. It's okay, Kurumu said, leaning on Issei. Her heart was a mess and felt like it was about to explode. It can't be, is it him? My one and only? She wondered, glancing sideways at Issei's face. He left with Kurumu, leaving behind a jealous Mocha and Tsubasa. That fool, let's go Mocha, let's let him fix this, Tsubasa said as Mocha looked at her. Is it okay to leave him with her? Mocha asked, worried about Issei. Yes, it won't do anything to her, apparently her charm doesn't affect her, Tsubasa said, surprising Mocha. Really? She asked, surprised. Yes, that's good, so let's go before lunchtime is over, Tsubasa said, and Mocha left with her. Nursing. Issei left Kurumu on a stretcher and sat down in a nearby chair. Neither of them said anything, Kurumu blushing deeply and glancing occasionally at the brunette who remained silent, staring at her without any expression until he decided to speak. Tell me something Kurono, why so much resentment towards Tsubasa and Mocha? And don't come at me with that slave boy plan, I already know it, Issei said seriously, which surprised Kurumu. Do you know about that? Kurumu asked, surprised. Yes, I've been listening to all that chatter about your harem plan. I don't judge you. Even women can have one if they want. But I think it's stupid that you're attacking Mocha and Tsubasa for something they didn't even do. It's not their fault they're beautiful, Issei said, making Kurumu angry at what he said. But they ruin my plans, because of them nobody looks at me anymore, Kurumu said, making Issei sigh. You do suffer from a serious case of inattention, said the chestnut-haired man, shaking his head. That's not it. You don't understand the reasons behind things. The light blue-haired girl shouted angrily, surprising Issei. Is there a reason for everything you do? Issei asked when someone entered the infirmary and it was none other than Morrigan, who looked at them curiously. Are you committing illegal acts on the school campus? The green-haired girl asked seriously, looking at the two who were standing very close together. You're mistaken, we're resolving an important matter, Issei said calmly. And what important matter requires two students to be alone in the infirmary at lunchtime, huh? Morrigan said, waiting for an explanation. Simple, she tried to turn all the boys at the academy into slaves, Issei pointed out, surprising Kurumu with how he put it. So that's how it is, you know. It's disappointing how far our race has fallen, Morrigan said, shaking her head in disappointment and glaring angrily at Kurumu, who became flustered by the look. You're in trouble, young lady. This won't end here, and believe me, your punishment won't be pretty at all, the green-haired girl declared, turning the light blue-haired girl pale. Issei just watched everything in silence. Every action has its reaction, and what Kurumu did has its price. Hopefully, her punishment won't be anything serious. Anyway, I just came for some antacid since Shinobu-sensei overate a ton of donuts, Morrigan said, going to the medicine shelf to find some pills and then looking for Kurumu. I'll wait for you in the teacher's lounge at dismissal time, we have a lot to talk about, she said, leaving. After she left, the two were left in an awkward silence. Issei noticed Kurumu was pale, but then she glared at him furiously. Yawu, this is your fault. Kurumu shouted angrily at the brunette for betraying her to Morgan. Hey, I'm not to blame for anything, I did the right thing, so calm down, Issei said seriously. The RRRR, first those two hog all the men's attention and then you betray me by getting me into trouble, arg, I'm furious. Kurumu yelled, completely annoyed, as she glared at Issei. And I'm going to unleash my fury on you. The brunette just watched as she transformed. It grew a pair of bat wings and a heart-shaped tail, and its nails grew longer. The modern-day succubus. DCH, calm down or I won't be responsible for my actions. Believe it or not, I'm like Izuma and I stand for gender equality, Issei said, looking seriously at Kurumu, who cared about that. But before anything could happen, the infirmary door was abruptly opened by Mocha, who was worried about Issei, even though Tsubasa told her he would be fine. Upon seeing Kurumu transformed, he acted rashly. Get away from him. And with great force he pushed Kurumu out the open window to let in the air, so that Kurumu was taken by surprise and could not react. Issei looked at that in surprise, then went from looking through the window where Kurumu flew out to Mocha, who also seemed surprised by what happened. Okay, we have to go get her, Issei said, approaching the window from the 4th floor. He looked over his shoulder and told Mocha, go get Tsubasa, I'll wait for you downstairs, and jumped out the window. Mocha's eyes widened at the sight and she went over to see if he was alright. To her surprise she saw that he landed on his feet without suffering any damage. I'd better go get Tsubasa, she said, and went to find the catgirl. With Issei. He was walking among the old trees of the dark forest, he felt Kurumu's presence approaching him and he just stepped aside, dodging a swipe that cut through the trees like butter. Do you really want this? I don't recommend it, to be honest, Issei said seriously, looking at the girl who was upset. Shut up. She yelled and launched herself at Issei at great speed, but he only dodged the attacks of the annoying Kurmu, further irritating her. Stay still. She shouted, frustrated at not landing a single blow. Okay, and he stood still. She was taken aback by that, but she didn't care. She lunged at Issei who, before receiving the blow, caught Kurumu's arm, surprising the succubus. Huh? She didn't understand how he did it. What? I said I wouldn't move, not that I wouldn't defend myself, Issei said, letting go of Kurumu and pushing her away. He didn't want to hurt her. DCH, you're insufferable, she said, annoyed. But you blushed when I was near you, Issei said, smiling amusedly. Kurumu blushed at that. SH shut up, idiot, she said, embarrassed. Issei sighed and looked at Kurumu. Seriously, why did you want to turn all the boys at the academy into your slaves? Issei asked, sitting down on the floor and looking at her. She looked at him annoyed, but answered. Our race, the Succubi, are on the verge of extinction, which is why we resort to enchanting various men, so that we can find our one destined mate among them. We have to carefully search for a single man to be our one and only, Kurumu said seriously. That's why I can't stand those two, since they frustrate my plans to find my one destined mate, she said, and Issei understood. Wow, it seems this world, like mine, has this low population problem, he thought, recalling a topic he'd discussed with Azazel months before the Trihexa incident. I understand, but haven't you considered that there are beautiful girls all over the academy? I mean, it's not just Mocha and Tsubasa who are beautiful, there are the teachers, they're beautiful too, he said, and Kurumu faltered, as the brunette was right. But I didn't know what to say. Issei sighed and stood up looking at Kurumu. Listen, I'm not saying it's wrong that you want to keep your race alive. I mean, I don't know how many Succubi are left, but I know they're not like Insland Sensei. She's one of a kind, or so I think, or Bayonetta Sensei, who, along with a friend, are the only Umbra witches left. But the method you're using is wrong. You saw how you got scolded for it. So you'd better think things through more calmly and find the right person for you. He'll appear soon, and you'll see, he'll love you. I mean, you're beautiful, and you could have any guy you want, Issei said calmly. He understands that she wants to keep her race alive, but this method is somewhat extreme, since even Morgan disapproves of it. Kurumu listened to Issei and agreed with him, but that's what Succubi do nowadays, they look for that special person for them among many men, something that is not easy, since he is one among the entire population of the world, a succubus and her destined person are united until death. Issei sighed and approached her to stroke her head, which snapped her out of her thoughts, but also made her blush because she felt a warm feeling. Listen, let's forget this happened today, okay? If you want, we can talk and become friends. You could also become friends with Mocha and Tsubasa, but if you don't want to, I understand. Well, it wasn't the best way to meet, but honestly, I've had worse. See you, Kurumu, Issei said, walking away from her. Kurumu stood there, alone, thinking about that warm feeling the chestnut-haired boy had given her with a single touch, although she had felt it before too, could it be? Yes, it's him, she smiled happily and watched Issei's back as he slowly walked towards the academy. He's my destined one. She finally finished her search. she would tell her mother about it. Observing everything from the rooftop of the academy were Shinobu Haidu, better known as Kiss Shot Acerola or Ironheart under Blade, along with Morgan Eland, watching how this whole affair would end. "Well, it didn't end as I expected, but I'm satisfied," Morgan said, taking a sip of coffee. "What? Were you expecting a fight like the one against that brat Kamiya?" Shinobu asked, raising an eyebrow. "Well, something like that, you know I like to watch a fight," the green-haired girl said to her friend, making Shinobu sigh. "Anyway, we'd better go back inside, lunch is almost over," said the blonde, walking away. Morgan gave one last look to the brunette who was with Mocha and Tsubasa and smiled slightly. "Yes, it's very interesting," and she left the place. And so the problem ended. 1 week later. It has been a week since the incident with Kurumu, and she has already been suspended and given a large assignment for violating the school code. Now we are on the path to the academy. Mocha, Issei, and Tsubasa were walking along peacefully. "That math homework was so difficult," complained the dark-haired girl, grumbling about the assignment. "Speak for yourself, although having Ian's land sensei with us is difficult, her tasks are very heavy," said Issei, remembering the tasks that the strict green-haired woman assigns. "You said it," Mocha confirmed. Then someone called Issei. "Ice-kun, hello," greeted a cheerful Kurumu holding a plate of homemade cookies. The three were surprised to see her. They hadn't seen her for a week because of her suspension. "Kurumu, hello, how are you?" Issei asked, looking at her. She smiled. "Very well, now that I have you clothes," she said, approaching to offer him cookies. "Here, I prepared them especially for you," she said, confusing the brunette and making the girls jealous, since they knew what she was up to. "Oh, thank you," and he took a cookie, his eyes widening in surprise at its delicious taste. "Wow, this is delicious," he said, finishing the cookie. "Thank you, Kurumu, but why the gift?" he asked, confused, and she smiled sweetly with a lovely blush. "Well, do you remember the talk about how Sukubi seek their one destined mate?" she asked. "Yes, because wait, you don't mean?" He stood still looking at Kurumu who nodded happily. "Yes, you're my one and only," she said happily, and Issei looked at her in surprise. The two girls next to her were frowning. "How did you come to that conclusion?" Issei asked, somewhat agitated. "Well, when I was near you I felt my heartbeat strongly, what's more, I feel the same now, I don't know why, but seeing you makes me happy and well, according to what mom told me, that's our sign that I found my one destined one, that is, you," Kurumu said, smiling with a blush on her face. Issei was surprised. Damn Sukubi and their way of finding a partner, he thought nervously, since he hadn't expected that. "No way, Ice-kun isn't your destined one, and you're nothing to him, so you'd better go find someone else," Tsubasa yelled, annoyed and jealous. She wasn't going to let anyone else come between her and Issei. "That's right, first you try to seduce and control him, and now you say he's your destined one, I don't believe a word of it, you'd better stay away from Ice," Mocha said angrily, still remembering the things she had said to him. "PCH, you two better go and leave me alone with my Ice-kun, he only needs me," Kurumu said, frowning at the two of them. Issei swore he saw lightning bolts shooting from the eyes of the three of them, and just sighed. And to think it all ended this way, Issei thought, watching the three of them fight. And so this ends for the moment, while Issei tries to calm things down, everything is seen from one of the academy windows by Acerola, Bayonetta and Morgan. Ice sure turned out to be quite the Casanova, look at him already having 3 girls after him, Bayonetta remarked, amused, watching the brunette try to stop the 3 girls. "Well, it may be part of his dragon nature to attract women to him, I don't know much about that yet," Acerola mentioned, looking at what was happening to Issei with some amusement. "Well, in the end the boy did turn out to be interesting, but tell me, how strong is he?" Morgan asked the blonde. "Well, I don't know exactly since she doesn't fight, but since she has my blood running through her veins, she has the characteristics I possess as a vampire. Also, thanks to being a dragon, the adverse effects of a vampire are negated. In fact, that's why I can walk in the sun without problems, and my power has grown more, but I don't know for sure the totality of her power," Acerola said, and the green-haired girl nodded. "Well, as things stand right now, we may soon be seeing some of his power in action," Bayonetta said, eager to see Issei fight a little more seriously. "Well, if that happens, I don't want to miss it," Morgan said, hoping Issei wouldn't disappoint her. "Anyway, let's go to the teacher's lounge, classes are about to start," Acerola said listlessly. The two of them smiled, amused by that, but they still went with her. "By the way, I heard that Jean is coming to teach here," Morgan said, looking at Bayonetta. "Oh, that's right, she'll be here in a few days," said the dark-haired woman, remembering her old friend. And so they went off chatting, leaving behind the scene of Issei trying to calm the girls down. Chapter 4 The Dragon and the Club Choice. 1 week later, room 1-3. A week has passed since Kurumu's incident, and during that week she has spent a lot of time near Issei, of course, bothering Mocha and Tsubasa. Now the succubus joined the group, much to the displeasure of Tsubasa, who was still angry with her for what had happened before. Kurumu now clings to Issei a lot, who doesn't mind her get uncomfortable. After all, it makes him nostalgic when he used to sleep with Rias and the others in his world. They were now with Nekonim, who was in charge of the group, as she was going to make an important announcement. "Well, from today onwards you'll have to find a club to belong to," said Nekonim. Everyone was surprised by that, even Issei. "Wow, I didn't expect that, but oh well, it's probably to get us more familiar with human activities," he thought, watching Shizuka scratch one of the boys' faces when he pointed out that his tail was sticking out. "Okay, everyone should visit several clubs and choose one they like," she said with a big smile. "By the way, stop by the journalism club, where I'm an advisor, okay?" she added, shamelessly promoting herself. Some time later. "Yes, there are a lot of clubs," Issei said, looking at the crowd of rioting students in the academy's hallways. "I was with Mocha and Tsubasa, and they saw the different clubs giving promotions." "Yes, although I hope we find a club we like," said Tsubasa, looking at all the clubs there. "Right, but which club will we join?" Mocha asked the two of them. "I don't have a specific one, I don't care which one it is, but as long as it's with you guys I'm satisfied," Issei said calmly, bringing a smile to both girls' faces. "Alright, that's settled, let's check out a bunch of clubs since they went to all this trouble," Mocha said excitedly. "That's right, let's see what the other clubs have to offer," Tsubasa said, smiling. "Sure, let's do it," Issei said. So the three of them went to see the different clubs that were there. Number 1 Ghost Photograph denied, they were strangers. Number 2 Chemistry Club denied, they wanted to make love potions, and that was dangerous, plus they look suspicious. Then more club representatives arrived to try to take Mocha or Tsubasa away, but Issei kept them away. In the end they didn't find anything they liked. Everyone was weird. "Isn't there a decent club?" Tsubasa asked, annoyed by all the idiots who wanted to recruit them. She felt like scratching them to death. "Well, there's still the club that Nekonim-sensei runs," Mocha said, and Issei nodded. "That's right, it's the journalism club, if I'm not mistaken, it might be interesting," said Issei, already tired of being among so many crazy people. The girls were about to say something, but a commotion caught their attention. Standing there wearing only a swimsuit, a sarong and sandals, was a beautiful girl with magenta hair, a curvy figure and nice breasts. Issei looked at her analytically. She's beautiful, but she exudes an aura almost equal to the charm Kurumu tried to use on him. "Right, where's Kurumu?" Issei asked, remembering the succubus who disappeared as soon as class ended. "I have no idea, I just saw her leave the room, and that's it," Mocha said. "We'll see her soon enough, she never goes a day without being glued to you," Tsubasa said with some annoyance in his voice, as it bothered him that the succubus clung so tightly to the brunette. Then the girl in a swimsuit approached the trio. "Hello, I'm the vice president of the swimming club, Tamao Ichinus. Tell me, shall we swim together?" Tamao asked, approaching the brunette directly, who looked at her. This clearly made both girls jealous. How dare she approach the brunette like that? The truth was that Issei didn't know what to say, since it wasn't normal to be invited to a club. "Come on, come, I know you won't regret it," she said, looking directly into the brunette's eyes. Issei looked at her and then at his two companions. "What do you say, girls? Should we try to go?" he asked the two of them. "Whatever, let's go," Tsubasa said, looking seriously at Tamao. There was something about her that he didn't like very much. Mocha didn't know what to say, Issei noticed that, already knowing the reason for her actions. "Come on, let's go," Tamao said, leading him to her club. "The swimming club only has female members. The girls will shower any boy who joins us with special attention," she added, holding Issei's hand. He let himself go. He wanted to see what kind of club it was where there was a girl with such charm. The boys who heard that, being horny, excitedly accepted. Tsubasa and Mocha followed Issei, jealous of how Tamao was leading him by the hand. Academy pool. After a few minutes they arrived at the academy's swimming pool, where there was a sign welcoming the new members of the swimming club. "Welcome to the swimming club," said several beautiful girls in or around the pool, all in swimsuits. The boys were obviously excited about that, but Issei didn't even flinch. Issei, Mocha and Tsubasa saw that from the entrance to the pool. I don't think this is a good idea," Mocha said, not wanting to get near the water. Issei understood and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I know what you mean. My vampire friend told me that vampires have trouble entering normal water because of its purifying effects," Issei said, surprising Mocha that he knew that. "Wow, I didn't expect that," Tsubasa commented, surprised by one of the vampire's weaknesses. "So don't worry, I'll just see what the hell is going on in this club, because just like with Kurumu, these girls give off an aura that attracts boys," Issei commented seriously, surprising the two girls. "I knew these gave me a bad feeling," Tsubasa said seriously. That's a real problem, what will you do, Ice? Mocha asked, looking at the brunette. For now, I'll pretend to be interested in the club because I want to see what the secret is behind these girls. Something tells me it's nothing good, said the brunette, and the two nodded. Well, then I'll wait here, I don't want to go near the water, Mocha said, and Issei nodded. Me neither, I'm not much of a swimmer, Tsubasa said, and they both looked at her. It's not because I'm a cat, is it? Issei asked, earning an annoyed look from the dark-haired girl. Idiot, that's not it, it's just that I don't feel like doing that, that's all. Tsubasa said to me, offended. Oh, sorry, it's a joke, Issei said, smiling amusedly. HMPH Tsubasa looked away, somewhat annoyed. Issei then looked at the boys who were already in the pool, and Tamao approached him to take his arm, pressing her breasts against it. Come swim with us, Tamao said, smiling charmingly at the brunette. Sure, let's go, said Issei, playing along and leaving the two girls behind. I can't wait to see Issei in a swimsuit, Tsubasa commented, and Mocha looked at her, blushing slightly. What are you saying? Mocha said, blushing. Oh, don't pretend, I know you want to see him in a swimsuit too, Tsubasa said, looking at the vampire who lowered her gaze with a deep blush and nervously fidgeted with her hands. Well, a little bit, Mocha said, blushing deeply, making Tsubasa smile. With Issei. The brunette went to change into some swimming shorts, and when he came out, all the girls looked at him blushing. They looked at the chestnut-haired man's entire torso, and some even licked their lips. Why? That simple, the guy was well-defined, with well-trained muscles, he looked like an Olympic athlete, he wasn't too ripped, but he wasn't skinny either, they were perfect muscles. Apparently, training for several years paid off. I want to get lost in those muscles, Tsubasa commented, his eyes changing from gold to a perverted look. Mocha said nothing and just blushed as she stared at Issei's bare torso. Not bad at all, thought the real Mocha, looking at Issei through the rosary. Issei walked until he was close to a hypnotized Tamao. Well, shall we begin? Issei asked, snapping the girl out of her daze, who looked at him with a slight blush. Yes, come on, let's swim together, she said, taking the brunette's hand to lead him into the pool. It should be noted that both girls and boys were jealous of both of them, you know why. Tsubasa and Mocha were the most jealous, but they trusted Issei. If he told them there was something wrong here, then there was. Issei entered the pool with Tamao. Swimming wouldn't be difficult for him since his grandparents had encouraged him to take up swimming, and he became quite good at it. Tamao was very close to him, trying to seduce him, but it seemed a con artist would end up being conned, since every time she clung to him, she felt his muscles and his heartbeat strongly. Although Mocha and Tsubasa didn't like that at all. I can't stand seeing that, Mocha said, very jealous. Me neither, you know what? Let's go check out Nekonim-sensei's club, let's leave Ice here, Tsubasa said, and Mocha nodded. Ice, we're going to the journalism club, see you later. She said. Sure, I'll catch up with you in a bit. Issei said, smiling at them. They then left. Issei stayed a while longer in the pool with a dazed Tamao who kept staring at Issei, and she was supposed to daze him. Swimming is relaxing, Issei commented, snapping the girl out of her daze. Do you like to swim? She asked, interested in talking to him. Well, sort of. I'm not that big of a swimmer, but it does help me relax when I'm feeling stressed, commented the brunette, swimming near the girl who was just listening. The two continued talking for a while until they were sitting on the edge of the pool, somewhat away from the others who were swimming happily. Issei noticed the girl starting to exhibit strange behavior. Something was going to go wrong soon. Wow, we have new members, what wonderful news, said a girl's voice as she arrived. Issei noticed the girl. She was beautiful, no doubt about it, with a well-endowed figure. She was tall and slender, with long, straight, black hair, black eyes, and fair skin. She was also wearing a dark purple two-piece swimsuit that showed off her curves even more. Who is she? Issei asked Tamao, who seemed nervous. Oh, she's the president of the swimming club, Tamao said, sounding nervous and somewhat regretful. Issei noticed that and didn't let his guard down. The dark-haired woman looked at Issei and smiled broadly. Oh, if it isn't the famous Haidu Issei, who would have thought we'd have you here with us? Said the girl, sensually approaching the brunette, who frowned. He didn't like that girl at all. I didn't think I'd be so famous at the academy, Issei commented, without letting his guard down in front of the girl. Well, now you know, you're very famous, both with men and women, there are even rumors that you and Shinobu-sensei knew each other before, the girl commented, standing near the duo, while Tamao looked nervous. Yes, it was thanks to meeting her that I'm here, but that's beside the point, what do you want? Issei asked seriously, while she smiled broadly. Haha, not much, she said to stand in front of Issei, and only your essence throw him into the water when chaos broke out. The girls transformed into their Yokai forms, which are mermaids that steal men's youth. Issei-kun. Tamao shouted, worried about the brunette. She was about to intervene, but a powerful tail whip from her president sent her slamming into the net. "Stupid girl, you never do anything right, you'd better stay there and not get in the way," she said as she entered the water. All that could be heard were the screams of the boys, who were literally being left dry like mummies. Hama looked at that worriedly. She hated this, but there could be nothing, the president had threatened her with death if she did not obey orders. With Mocha and Tsubasa. Both girls were walking in search of the photography club, they didn't know what to expect with Issei at the swimming club, but they left him there since they felt jealous seeing how Tama was monopolizing him. "Oh, girls, where is Ice-kun?" Kurumu asked, arriving with a basket full of cookies she had prepared herself. "Kurumu-chan, he's at the swimming club right now. He said something strange was happening and he wanted to find out what it was," Mocha commented, somewhat annoyed. "DCH, pathetic excuse, I just wanted to mess with that girl," Tsubasa said, annoyed. Kurumu understood and felt a little jealous that her destined one was with other girls besides her. "Wait, swimming club?" Kurumu said, as if remembering something. "Yes, why?" Mocha said, confused by her expression. "I've been hearing rumors from some senpais that club is full of mermaids," Kurumu commented, and the two girls were surprised. "Ice is in trouble," Mocha exclaimed, starting to run back to the pool. "I knew why I didn't like that girl, she's a stupid fish," Tsubasa said, beginning to let out her yokai side, since her eyes were golden. Kurumu followed her too, she would help her destined one out of whatever danger he was in. Back to the pool. The chaos was great. All the boys were being captured and attacked by the sirens. At the bottom of the pool, Issei was watching as several of them began to surround him. "Damn it, these stupid girls caught me off guard, but I'm not going to make it easy for them, today we have to make boiled fish," he thought, annoyed at being taken for a fool. At that moment, the club president, transformed into a mermaid, stood in front of him with a mocking smile. "Hi do Issei, who would have thought it? I finally have you close," she said, approaching the brunette and circling him like prey. "From the moment I saw you at the opening ceremony, I wanted you close, your scent, your scent fascinates me, it's like human," she said, hugging the brunette but scratching him in some places. "This bitch is crazy," he thought, observing her behavior. "Finally, after a long time, I have you in my hands and I'm going to enjoy you like you can't imagine," she said, opening her jaws full of sharp teeth to try to bite him. "Bullshit," he thought, pushing the mermaid with difficulty and starting to swim. But it was useless, those stupid ones were attacking him at great speed. "Haha, there's no escape, you're in our territory, resisting is useless," laughed the club president sadistically. "Damn fish," thought the chestnut-haired man, annoyed. Outside the pool, Tamao was recovering from the blow she had received and watched as the trio of girls arrived at the scene, looking at everything with horror. "We're late," Kurumu said, annoyed. "I can't go in, it will seriously hurt me," Mocha said, feeling powerless. Tsubasa looked at Tamao who was hurt and went to her. "You damned aquatic boar. Where is Ice-kun?" Tsubasa said furiously as she grabbed Tamao by the neck, who was drowning. "Sit down, they have it down," Tamao barely managed to say as Tsubasa let go of her and she began to catch her breath. "DRRRR, you damn stupid girls, I'm going to kill you all," Tsubasa said in her cat form. She was about to jump into the water, but Tamao stopped her. "Wait," said the mermaid, stopping the white-haired girl. "What the hell do you want now?" the cat girl asked, annoyed. "I'll get Issei-kun out of there," Tamao said, as Tsubasa looked at her seriously. "Leave her alone, she's the only one who can help us," Kurumu said. "Why should we trust her? She's a mermaid and she might be lying to us just to join them," Tsubasa said irritably. "No, I won't do that, I swear, I haven't agreed with what the others have been doing at the club," Tamao said sincerely. Tsubasa looked at her seriously. "Let her go, Ice-kun is in trouble," Kurumu shouted angrily. "DRRRR, fine, go and get Ice-kun out of there," Tsubasa said, resigning herself to trusting the mermaid. Tamao simply nodded and jumped into the pool. "I hope she keeps her word or I'll make sushi out of her," Tsubasa said, extending her claws, which looked very sharp. "Oh, believe me, I'll do it too," Kurumu said, making her nails longer. Mocha's rosary was pulsing. Apparently, inner Mocha wanted to go out and play. With Tamao. She swam quickly to where they had Issei, only to be thrown out by the club president. "Oh, but look who it is, the stupid virgin who's no good for this," the president said mockingly. Tamao said nothing and looked at Issei, who looked out of breath. Tamao approached to try to save him, but was hit by the president who looked at her seriously. "What do you think you're doing, you useless thing? You'd better go back the way you came or you'll be in trouble," the dark-haired woman said angrily. "No, everything they're doing is wrong, they're killing the students," Tamao shouted angrily. "So what? Who cares? We're mermaids, and it's our nature to steal men's youth to keep us beautiful forever," the dark-haired woman said narcissistically. Issei heard everything and this annoyed him a lot. That bitch was crazy just like all the others, at least Tamao proved to be different. I'm fed up, I can't end like this. Issei thought furiously as he unleashed his power. The mermaids stood still, suddenly the water temperature rose and they looked towards Issei. His eyes shone with an intimidating emerald green. The grimace of absolute fury was on his face and a red aura surrounded him. Tamao saw that and knew that the president didn't have Issei locked up, she locked herself up with him. Sensing danger, she left, leaving the others who, because they were focused on Issei, the few boys who were okay, began to take out those who were very sick. What is this power? It's heating the water. The president shouted, feeling panicked. Still furious, Issei unleashed more power, causing the waters to become turbulent and hotter, almost to the point where they began to boil. Several of the girls left terrified and with burns on their skin. Groaya. And the chestnut-haired man let out a ferocious roar that terrified the mermaids. The pillar of fire exploded, rising and evaporating the water in the pool. The president and several mermaids suffered severe burns. Issei was angrily staring at the dark-haired girl who had angered him. "You monster." The president screamed in terror, but she became even more frightened when she saw Issei approaching her with that grimace of absolute rage. "No, stay away from me," she screamed, crawling backwards. Issei wouldn't listen to reason, he was angry, very angry, he wanted to kill this stupid girl who was going to kill him in a humiliating way for a dragon like him. The girls watched in amazement and a little terror. They hadn't expected Issei to react that way. "It can't be, he's furious," Tsubasa said, frightened. Mocha said nothing, the rosary stopped beeping. Kurumu felt a shiver when she saw the gaze of the white-haired boy she loved. Tamao was amazed and terrified. She didn't expect to see Issei do what he did. The chestnut-haired man was about to hit the president, who even peed herself out of fear, when someone stopped him. "Issei, stop this instant," said Kishot's authoritative voice, arriving alongside Morgan and Bayonetta. "What a mess they've made here," Bayonetta said, looking at the male students in deplorable states and the healthy ones helping them. "This warrants extreme punishment. This not only violates school laws, but they were also about to commit murder," Morgan said with extreme seriousness, looking at the sirens who were frightened when they saw her. Kishot, or on this occasion, Shinobu, ignored her friends and went straight to the irate Issei who looked at her with those green eyes. "Issei Haidu, calm down this instant, or I'll have to take it upon myself to calm you down," Shinobu said seriously. Upon hearing her, Issei calmed down. The aura that surrounded him began to fade and his eyes returned to their original color. "That's better," Shinobu said with a smile, then looked seriously at the dark-haired girl who was still terrified. "As for you, you're in deep trouble, so you and everyone involved will follow us to the address since we'll be calling your parents," she declared, and the dark-haired girl knew it. She had really messed up. Issei calmed down and looked at Shinobu. "Thank you, if you hadn't come, that stupid girl wouldn't be breathing anymore," Issei said calmly, but he still felt stupid for letting himself be carried away by anger. "Don't worry, I'll always be there to help you," Shinobu said with a beautiful smile. If you're done flirting, could you help us, Shinobu? We have to deal with this mess," Bayonetta said, calling to the blonde. "Yes, and stop doing that at the academy, you could get into trouble," Morgan said seriously. The blonde sighed and went with her two friends to take care of this matter. Issei jumped out of the bottom of the pool and looked at the girls. Excuse me for what you just saw, I wasn't in my right mind," Issei apologized, but they shook their heads. "Don't worry, we understand that you were angry," Mocha said with an understanding smile. "Yes, although I would have liked to see you kick that stupid girl's ass," Tsubasa said, still in her Nico form. Kurumu lunged at him, hugging him around the neck while Issei wrapped his arms around her waist. "To be honest, that part of you excites me a little," she whispered in his ear, while Issei was surprised by how perverted Kurumu was, although he didn't dislike it. "Hey, Kurumu-chan, let go of the ice right now," Mocha yelled, annoyed and jealous of the girl who stuck her tongue out at her. "Nope, I like being embraced by my destined beloved," Kurumu said, clinging closer to the brunette, pressing her enormous breasts against Issei's hard chest, who enjoyed the sensation of those two glorious mountains of flesh. Don't push your luck, Naya," Tsubasa yelled angrily. Tamao viewed that with a certain envy. Issei noticed Tamao and smiled at her, making her blush a little. "Thank you for coming to help me, seriously, you're a good person," Issei said. Tamao was surprised by those words. She didn't expect him to think she was a good girl. Issei gently separated Kurumu and looked at the mess. "We should probably go to the journalism club," Issei said, and the others nodded. Issei looked at Tamao. "Well, it wasn't the best way, but I enjoyed swimming with you. Let's do it again, but in a calmer setting, okay?" Issei said, and Tamao smiled at that. "Sure, if they still let us use the pool after this," she said, referring to the mess the girls had made. "Yes, I hope this doesn't escalate. well, see you later, girls, Issei said to the girls, and with that they left, leaving the whole problem in the hands of the three strongest teachers. Pamao looked at Issei's back and sighed. She was starting to find that boy very interesting. The rest can be summarized as Issei and the girls being accepted by a cheerful Nekonim, who finally had 3 new members in the club she advises. Chapter 5 Battle Under the Moonlight and Revelation. The next day. The day after the incident with the swimming club. Everything happened quickly. The dark-haired president, along with several of the girls, were expelled and given serious sanctions for what had happened. The club remained valid, with Tamao as the new president, since most of the girls had been threatened by the now former president. So classes continued normally until the afternoon when they stayed in the classroom, since it turns out that this classroom is the same as the journalism club's. How exciting, today I start attending the club with Ice-kun. Kurumu said, hugging the brunette against her enormous breasts. Instead of suffocating, Issei was calmly enjoying the softness of the light blue-haired girl's G-cup breasts. Let go of Ice-kun this instant, you stupid milk cow. Tsubasa shouted angrily in her Nico form, trying to pull the light blue-haired girl away from the brown-haired boy. Girls, please calm down, Mocha said, trying to ease the tension between the two. Issei had enough, so he gently separated from Kurumu who pouted in protest. Girls, calm down, okay? Don't fight, Issei pleaded, trying to calm things down. HMPH, when that fool earns that you're mine, I won't stop bothering you, Naya, Tsubasa said angrily, looking at Kurumu. TCH, I say the same about this alley cat, until she stops getting in the way between you and me, we won't get along, Kurumu said, annoyed. Both of them looked like they had lightning bolts crashing in their eyes. Issei sighed, these girls reminded him of he'd better shake off that memory. Okay, that's enough, let's get along, please, Issei pleaded, somewhat tired of that cat and succubus fight. Mocha said nothing, as Issei calmed the situation. Just then the door to the classroom opened. It was Shizuka who entered with a smile on her face, but she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by Shinobu, who smiled at Issei. Well girls and boy, welcome to the journalism club, Shizuka greeted with a smile. As you can see, Shinobu-sensei will be with me as a co-advisor of the club, she said as the girls looked at the blonde vampire. Yes, well, I'll be here supporting Shizuka-sensei and overseeing the club's activities. I expect good work from all of you, Shinobu said calmly, and the girls and Issei nodded. Alright, with that said, let's get started with the club's activities. Shizuka said cheerfully, which surprised the 4 of them. Excuse me, sensei, but are only the girls and I part of the club? Issei asked, somewhat confused. Well, about that, with the 4 of you, there would already be 5 members in the club, Shizuka replied with a nervous smile. The 4 of them were surprised by this revelation. Only 5 members? Mocha asked, surprised. That can't be, weren't there any other members? Kurumu asked, frowning. Well, technically there are more members in this case, Shinobu mentioned. Exactly, there's still someone else to come, Shizuka said with her calm smile. And it wasn't long before someone else arrived in the room. Opening the door and entering with a bouquet of roses, a handsome brown-haired man entered, who smiled upon seeing the girls. Let me introduce you to the president of the journalism club, second-year student Morioka Janae, Shizuka introduced a brunette who had a Colgate brand smile on his face. Greetings, I'm the president of the journalism club, I hope we all get along, said Janae, smiling charmingly at the 3 girls near Issei. He immediately approached Mocha and gave her some roses. Oh, they're just like Shizuka-sensei told me, all of them beauties, said Janae, looking at the 3 of them. Tsubasa frowned and hid behind Issei, while Kurumu clung closer to the brunette. Ice-kun, I don't like this guy, Tsubasa whispered in his ear. Yes, I don't like those kinds of flirts at all, Kurumu said, giving Janae a dirty look. Mocha was confused and just stared at the roses in her hands. Well, now that the introductions are done, we'll be going. We have a teachers' meeting to attend, Shinobu said to the 4 of them, then looked at Issei. You and I need to talk later, she said to him telepathically. Sure, I'll see you later, Issei replied, and she nodded. Gin-kun, we're leaving you in charge. Make sure you explain the procedures to them, Shizuka said with her typical smile. Of course, sensei, I'll take care of that, Janae said, smiling. Alright guys, see you later, get along with your senpai, okay? Shizuka said, bidding farewell to the boys and leaving the room. Don't get into trouble, Shinobu said, and with that she left, leaving the group alone. Janae went behind the desk and became serious. Well, I'll explain the main purpose of this club, Janae said seriously, and the girls and Issei looked at him. As you obviously know, we're in charge of publishing the Academy's newspaper. Our job is mainly to keep ourselves informed about any relevant and interesting events that happen on the Academy campus, he explained, looking at the 4 of them. Let me tell you, we'll be involved in high-risk situations just to gather information and distribute it to the academy students, so I hope you're prepared because this job isn't easy," he finished seriously. Tsubasa continued to glare at Jin with annoyance, while Kurumu and Mocha were surprised by the short speech Jin gave. "Wow, he seems more trustworthy than he did at first, don't you think, Ice?" Mocha asked. Yeah, something," Issei said, not giving it much importance. Jin finally smiled and spoke again, more relaxed. "Come on, relax, I was just playing a little joke on you, let's have some fun together without so much strict talk," said Jin. Making the girls and Issei look at him like this, he continued, taking out a poster with Shizuka and Shinobu on it. "This is our announcement poster, we're going to put it up in various places around the academy," he said, smiling kindly. Jin took 2 packages containing the poster from a box under the desk. "Okay, we'll split into groups and cover more ground," said Jin, as Tsubasa immediately grabbed one of the packages. "Ice-kun, you're coming with me," she said quickly, dragging Issei by the arm and taking him out of the club. "Hey. I wanted to be with Ice-kun." Kurumu shouted angrily, but Tsubasa didn't hear her and went off with Issei. "Well, that leaves the 3 of us, ladies, let's go," said Jin with a charming smile. "But I wanted to go with Ice-kun," Kurumu said quietly. Okay, we can hang out with him later," Mocha said, trying to comfort her. Although Janae frowned because he heard what Kurumu said, he ignored it. So the 3 of them left the room to go and put up the posters around. Issei white Tsubasa. "Tsubasa, not that I mind or anything, but could you let me walk?" Issei asked when she released him from her grip. "Thank you," he said, adjusting the sleeve of his jacket. Issei noticed how serious she was. "What's wrong?" "Ever since you saw Morioka-senpai, you've been acting strange," Issei said, though he could understand something, since Janae gave off a dog-like smell. "That guy, I don't know why, but I really dislike him," Tsubasa said, annoyed. There must be a specific reason why you dislike it," Issei said, playing dumb. "Maybe there is, no, there must be, but I don't know which one. It's just my instincts, and they rarely fail me," Tsubasa said, and Issei nodded. "Anyway, let's go stick these things around and come back," she said, and Issei nodded. Tsubasa may have been annoyed with Janae for no apparent reason, but being with Issei relaxed her a lot. Some time later. Issei and Tsubasa were returning to the clubroom after having posted the posters in various strategic locations around the academy. "Well, that was quick," Issei said calmly. "Yes, although I would have liked to spend more time alone with you," Tsubasa said, pouting. Issei smiled and stroked his head. "Haha, we'll have time, just wait," Issei said, and she smiled because she had achieved her goal. The 2 of them finally arrived at the hall. At that moment, Issei opened the door to let Tsubasa in, but upon arriving, they both witnessed an unpleasant scene. "What the hell are you doing?" Tsubasa shouted furiously. What was happening? Well, it's simple. While Mocha and Kurumu were on some benches sticking posters on the top of the wall, Janae was squatting down looking under their skirts. Obviously, with Tsubasa's furious scream, both of them stopped what they were doing and looked towards the door. "What's going on? Why are you shouting so much?" Mocha asked, confused. "Well, that guy was looking under her skirts." Tsubasa pointed out angrily to a nervous Janae. "Huh?" Mocha quickly got off the bench and glared angrily at Janae. "Only Ice-kun can see my panties, you pervert." Kurumu yelled angrily. "Wait, girls, it's a misunderstanding. I was just picking up something I dropped on the floor, yeah, that's it," Janae said nervously as he backed away a little. "What a lame excuse, I wouldn't have thought of something like that myself," said Issei, earning a glare from Jin. The 2 women involved were upset and Plath. X2. The club president earned tremendous slaps that left marks on his face. "Pervert." They both shouted at him and then left the club room. "Well done, senpai, you finished the club activities ahead of schedule," Issei said mockingly, though he felt bad for him, but then let it go, since every action has its reaction, and it had happened to him before in his previous world. "Let's go, Tsubasa," said the brunette. "Sure, let's get out of here," she said, leaving with Issei, leaving behind an annoyed Janae who hadn't anticipated Tsubasa and Issei's arrival. "DRRR, this won't stay like this," Jin said to himself, then packed the club's things into a box and took them away to be put away. After all, he was the president of the journalism club. Time later night rooftop of the Yokai Academy. Night had fallen and the students were in their rooms. Well, only one wasn't in his room, as he was on the rooftop of the Yokai Academy, admiring the almost full moon above the star-filled night sky. "Tomorrow will be a full moon," Issei said to no one in particular. "That's right, it's on nights like these that I feel somewhat energetic," said the voice of Kishot, who had recently arrived on the rooftop. Issei turned around and looked at the beautiful vampire who was also his master. She approached until she was close to Issei and hugged him around the neck while he hugged her around the waist. "So, what did you want to talk about?" Issei asked the beautiful blonde. "Well, first I want a little bit of you," she said, and Issei nodded. She brought her mouth close to Issei's neck and sank her fangs into him, sucking his blood. She felt a powerful wave of ecstasy run through her body as she ingested the blood of her important person. After drinking a liter, she pulled away and licked her lips, looking at the brunette with seductive eyes. "As delicious as ever," she said, enjoying the taste of Issei on her lips. "I'm glad to know you like my blood," Issei said, and she stroked his cheek. "Not just your blood, I love you very much and you know it," she said, smiling happily. "And you to me," said Issei. They shared a kiss that reflected the feelings they had for each other. The two broke apart from the kiss and pressed their foreheads together. Issei was a little taller than her. "Well, now comes what I wanted to talk to you about," Acerola said, looking the brunette in the eyes. "What's going on?" Issei asked. "Well, Cereza told me that Paradiso has been busy lately," she said, and Issei raised an eyebrow. "Seriously? What are those things that call themselves angels doing?" Issei asked, intrigued. He doesn't know it yet, but they've been very active. Besides that, he's noticed that the demons he's dealing with have been acting strangely lately, she said, and Issei became serious. "Now even the Inferno guys are acting weird, I don't like this at all," Issei said seriously. "Me neither, but there's not much I can do, really," commented the voice of Cereza or Bayonetta, arriving at the scene. "And you should stop sticking so close together at the academy, you could get into trouble," she said playfully. "Ha, as if I cared what Mikagami thinks, I can do whatever I want," Shinobu said, hugging the brunette tighter. "And I believe you, my friend, but getting back to the topic, things have been very hectic lately and Jean had to go to Rodin to consult him," said Cereza, standing next to the couple. "And they haven't discovered anything?" Issei asked, looking at the Hexy brunette. "Not yet, although Rodin told Jean that things in Inferno are very hectic, but beyond that he doesn't know anything," Bayonetta said seriously. "We have to be vigilant, we still don't know what might happen," Shinobu said seriously. "Yes, nothing good can come from the lack of control of Inferno and Paradiso," Issei said, equally serious. "Well, I'll leave you now, I have some assignments to grade and it won't do itself," said Cherry, sounding frustrated. "If anything happens, don't hesitate to let us know, we'll be available for anything that comes up," Shinobu said. "I know, and that's why I love you all, bye," said Cherry, leaving the place with a subtle but seductive hip sway typical of her. Issei looked at the black-haired woman's butt. It was big, just like her breasts. Then. "Ouch, why is that?" Issei asked, holding his head from the blow Shinobu gave him. "Don't look at another woman's ass while I'm with you," she scolded him. "Sorry, but you can't blame me, she's Hexy just like you," Issei said sincerely. "But she doesn't leave you dry," he whispered in his ear, cheering Issei up. "You're right there," Issei said, taking her by the waist. They kissed again under the light of the almost full moon. But without noticing, they were both seen by someone. "Don't mess with me, this is gold," said the person who was none other than Janae, who was looking at the moon from another point on the rooftop. "Haidu and Shinobu-sensei, hehe, now I have them," he said to himself with a Machiavellian smile. The next day. Issei woke up refreshed. A night of passion with a Hexy blonde vampire certainly helps with stress. The chestnut-haired boy walked along smiling and greeting one or two classmates. "Then I noticed someone." "Haidu-kun, good morning," Janae greeted with a friendly smile that didn't give him any trouble. "Good morning, Morioka-senpai," Issei greeted. "Yes, could you come with me? I have something to show you," Jin said to the brunette. "Okay." Issei said, following him. The two arrived at a secluded spot away from the academy. "And what do you want me for?" Issei asked, somewhat suspicious. "Yes, you know, I recently discovered something that could cause a big stir at the academy," Janae said, looking at the brunette who became serious. "It's a relationship, an illicit one," he said, smiling, something the brunette didn't like. "Where are you trying to get to?" Issei asked, looking seriously at Janae. "Well, you'd better see for yourself," he said, pulling out a photograph that annoyed Issei. It was him and Shinobu locked in a passionate kiss. "How did you get that photo?" he asked seriously. This clearly made Janae smile. I have my methods," Janae said, smiling. "You know, this could get you both in trouble, but not only that, what would Mocha-chan and the others think when they saw this picture? It would hurt them a lot," she said, and Issei got annoyed. "It's best not to involve the girls in this. This is a more complicated matter than you think," Issei said sarcastically. This only made Janae smile more. "Ha, imagine this on the front page, student and teacher, a forbidden love, yep, that would be a good title," said Janae. This only made Issei more angry. "It's best if you delete that photo if you know what's good for you," Issei warned him with cold seriousness. "Or what? You won't do anything, so you'd better get out of my way to be near Akashi and Mocha if you don't want this picture to be everywhere. After all, you have a beautiful woman by your side," he said, smiling victoriously. Issei just looked at him seriously as he left. "When you play with fire you get burned, Morioka Janae, you don't know me yet and how dangerous I can be," Issei said, walking away from the place. "I walk with a serious expression on my face when I bump into someone." Hello greeted the girl from the beginning of the academy, Juvia if I remember correctly. "Hello, it's been a while since I've seen you," Issei greeted, calming down. He didn't have to be bitter toward someone who hadn't done anything to him. "Yes, Juvia hasn't seen him in a while either, how is he?" Juvia asked somewhat shyly. "Well, thanks for asking. And you? How have you been?" Issei asked, looking at her. "Juvia has been doing well, thank you for asking," Juvia said with a smile. "Well, I'm going to class now, I hope we can talk more another time Juvia," Issei said, bidding her farewell. "Juvia hopes so too, take good care of yourself Issei," Juvia said with a slightly blushing smile. And so the chestnut-haired man left, unaware that he had gained his first stalker. Later. It was lunchtime and Issei left Mocha, Tsubasa and Kurumu alone, as he had to talk to Shinobu. "So that brat photographed us," said the blonde sitting on a bench on the rooftop, next to Issei. "Yes, although I know you don't care much about other people's opinions, I don't want your reputation to be tarnished in front of everyone at the academy, and I know the director will have to act according to the established rules, and you could be expelled," Issei said, taking her hand. She smiled at that because Issei cares a lot about her. "Well, I could take my younger form and stop being a teacher," she said simply. Issei remained silent. She could change her appearance and change her age. She smiled at Issei's face, so she gently took his face in her hands and looked into his eyes. "You worry too much and I like that, but I can solve my problems easily, so don't worry about it, okay?" she said, smiling affectionately. Issei sighed and she kissed him. "True, but this won't stay like this. I'm going to teach that idiot a lesson for threatening others," Issei said, clearly annoyed. Shinobu sighed, but said nothing. "Anyway, let's go have lunch, I'm getting hungry," said Shinobu, eager to go eat the donut she had gotten. "That's right, the girls are waiting for me," Issei said, and she looked at him. "Are you thinking of making a harem?" Shinobu asked, making Issei look at her and then at the sky. "No, not really, but apparently my dragon blood attracts strong women and potential partners, so they might end up with one," he said, sounding calm. Shinobu just looked at him and said nothing. "I'm not against it, but let me make this clear, I'll always be first," she said, smiling as she walked away with a mesmerizing sway of her hips. Issei just stared at the blonde's backside until she left. "It seems that from spending so much time with Bayonetta, she's picked up her habits I like it," Issei said, before leaving the place and going to where the girls were. Hours later night rooftop. Night had already fallen and the full moon was in the night sky, giving a nice natural glow. Then I heard someone opening the rooftop door and it was Akashi and Mocha. "Where could Jin-senpai be? He said he wanted to tell me something he found," Mocha said innocently, waiting for him. "I see you came as I asked, Mocha-chan," said Janae, emerging from one side of the rooftop entrance. Mocha looked at him. "Yes, what was that important thing you wanted to show me?" Mocha asked, confused. Janae smiled and approached her while holding the photo he had taken of Issei and Shinobu. "You see, last night I discovered something that might change your opinion of Haidu," Janae said, confusing Mocha. "What do you mean? What did I do?" Mocha asked. When Janae was about to show him the photograph. "Mocha, stay away from that guy," Issei said, arriving at the scene in the most unorthodox way possible, brought by Kurumu. "That's right, stay away from him, that guy just wants to lie to you to seduce you," Kurumu said, annoyed with Janae. Issei looked at Janae who was annoyed by this interruption. "Haidu, I warned you, and now everyone will know about your affair with Shinobu-sensei," Janae revealed angrily. The two girls were surprised and looked at Issei. "Is that fun, Ice-kun?" Kurumu asked, feeling hurt. "You and Shinobu-sensei?" Mocha said, also feeling unwell. "Ah, I'll explain later, but it's best if you stay away from him, Mocha. What I told you is true, and if you don't believe me, listen," Issei said, taking out a cell phone to show a recording where Janae said that he wanted Mocha for himself and things like that. Mocha, in shock, took several steps away from Janae, who only became more annoyed. "Arg, I'm fed up," Janae shouted with a distorted voice. At that moment, the three of them saw Janae begin to grow to 2.10 meters, his skin was covered in brown fur, and a huge mane and tail grew on him, his shoes were destroyed when two legs appeared and his face lengthened, becoming more animalistic. "Now I know why that guy bothers me so much, Naya," said the voice of a disgusted Tsubasa in her Yokai form, sitting on the rooftop entrance. "Tsubasa, how long have you been here?" Issei asked when she looked at him annoyed. "Since the beginning, right?" she said. What do you think? You owe us a lot of explanations, the white-haired woman said seriously, getting down from where she was to go to the three of them. DRRR, more trouble, but it doesn't matter, nothing will stop me from making Akashi and Mocha mine. Roared Janae the wolf, preparing for the attack. Issei looked at the guy and became serious. If there was one thing he knew about werewolves in his world and in this one, it was that they were similar. All werewolves became stronger when there was a full moon, and if they were of pure blood, they could transform at any time. Loup-Garou, the Tower of Sona, was a half-human werewolf with magical abilities, and he was superior to a normal werewolf because his father was a strong werewolf and his mother a powerful mage. Compared to Janae, Loup is a basketball and Janae is a marble. Issei didn't wait and approached Mocha, looking at her rosary which was clearly beating an annoyance. She looked at Issei, who sighed. I'll explain to you and the girls what Morioka said later, for now your other self wants to go out and fight, Issei said, and she nodded. Janae lunged at Issei, who didn't move much and met him with a kick that sent him crashing into the rooftop entrance. Ah how? Said Janae, wincing from the kick and surprised since he was supposed to be faster than Issei. Calm down, flea-ridden one, I won't be your opponent, she will be, said Issei, ripping the rosary from Mocha's neck as she transformed. After a few seconds, inner Mocha appeared with total elegance to look at Issei. You haven't let me out in a long time, and I wanted to personally taste your blood that drives my other self crazy, Mocha said in her seductive voice, looking seriously at the brunette who wasn't afraid of her. Yes, first fight the flea-ridden one, and then I'll give you some, okay? Issei said, looking at her. Nobody tells me what to do, she said, frowning. Seriously? Well, look, I don't care and I'm not interested in it at all, so if you don't want to keep being seen as a piece of meat, you better kick Flea-Skin Senpai's ass, Issei said seriously, looking into the red eyes of the vampire who held his gaze angrily, then huffed when she saw that he was not intimidated. Meanwhile, Janae stared in fascination at Mocha's true form. Beautiful. Simply beautiful. Mocha's true form is beautiful. Janae shouted excitedly, standing up and launching himself at Mocha. I don't care if you're a vampire, I'll still defeat you and make you mine. He yelled, increasing his speed. Mocha got upset about that. DCH, don't talk nonsense, you damn idiot, Mocha growled, launching a swipe forward, but Janae disappeared in a burst of speed, reappearing above the roof of the rooftop entrance. Issei observed his speed. It was fast for Mocha, but not for him. Ahaha, you're too slow, Janae said, looking at Mocha from where he stood. If a vampire's strength is power, a werewolf's is speed, and powered by moonlight, my speed increases dramatically, he said, starting to run quickly across the area. On nights of a full moon, werewolves are invincible. He roared as he continued running. Mocha was looking all around, but it was impossible for her to see Janae. Janae took advantage of this to attack Mocha from several points, while she barely reacted. Damn, it's so fast, she complained, annoyed. Give up. The longer the full moon lasts, the more likely you are to beat me. Roared Janae, feeling unbeatable. At that moment, Issei looked up at the sky, seeing how several clouds began to cover the moon, making him smile with amusement. This is over now, Issei said, amused. Why do you say that, Naya? Tsubasa asked. Look at the sky and you'll know what I'm talking about, Issei said, and they looked surprised. That flea-ridden kid is finished, Naya, Tsubasa said, smiling. Mocha lava dar unipaliza daiho karumu. And they were not wrong. Mocha stopped Janae's right hand and looked at him seriously. Huh? What's stopping me? Janae noticed the moon had hidden behind the clouds. Damn it, the moon's hidden in the clouds. I won't be able to use my true powers. The idiot yelled, nearly causing Kurumu and Tsubasa to fall to the ground. He's such an idiot, Issei said, shaking his head. At that moment, Janae felt his arm being squeezed and looked into Mocha's cold gaze. Wait, I can still beat you with or without Luna. I'm going to show you the real Po-oo. But Janae was silenced by a powerful snout stop that Mocha delivered. Janae, due to the force of the stop, was thrown from the rooftop to the ground, but nobody cares about that. Weakening you, how pathetic. Did you really think someone as pathetic as you would be suitable to be with me? Not in a billion years, so know your place, Mocha said, spitting downwards and then looking at Issei. Issei returned his gaze and held it. She said nothing and just looked away. Maybe he is worth it, she thought, only to blush a little at the thought. Well, this shit's over, Issei said, but then he felt the girl's piercing stares, even Mocha's. Oh no, he said, defeated. Now tell us, what's this about you dating Shinobu-sensei? Tsubasa demanded. That's right, why are you going for a teacher when you have me? Kurumu said, annoyed and hurt. I expect a good explanation, Mocha said, now close to the group. What, you too? Issei said, looking at the vampire who blushed at her mistake. It's because of my other self, don't get the wrong idea, Mocha said with a slight blush. Whatever you say, tsundere, he whispered, teasing Mocha. So, Naya. Tsubasa said, crossing her arms. Issei sighed and they decided to go sit on the benches up there. Now, first of all, Kurumu, you should know something that they know about me, Issei said, looking at the succubus. What is it? The succubus asked. I am a dragon, he revealed, leaving the girl in shock. Really? Kurumu asked. That's right, Naya, Tsubasa affirmed. It's true, it's a dragon, Mocha said. Kurumu was surprised. He had never seen a dragon in his life, he only knew them from stories or legends or popular culture where they are used, but he had never had one in front of him. But what does that have to do with you being with Shinobu-sensei? Kurumu asked. Well, here's something else you three don't know about me, Issei said. What is it? Tsubasa asked. Well, Issei was about to answer, but someone spoke first. She's my family member and partner, Shinobu replied, arriving at the scene and surprising everyone. Relative? Kurumu asked. Couple? Tsubasa said, annoyed. What do you mean by that? Mocha asked. It's as simple as it sounds, Ice is mine and I'm hers, that's how things are, Shinobu said simply. The three of them were annoyed by that. Besides, he's my familiar because as a vampire, it's normal to have a familiar, or at least it used to be, Shinobu said, throwing the girls off balance. Are you? Kurumu asked, surprised. Yes, I am a vampire, the strongest of all in fact, Shinobu said arrogantly. The three of them were surprised, but Mocha was the most surprised. Girls, she may be called Shinobu to you, but the truth is that her real name is something else, Issei said. What's her name? Mocha asked. I am Kiss-Shot Acerola or Ironheart Underblade, the cold-blooded, hot-blooded and steel-blooded vampire, as well as the last vampire of the ancient era, Acerola introduced herself, leaving Mocha in shock. No, it can't be, Mocha said with some fear. Do you know her, Mocha? Kurumu asked. She is the only vampire who surpasses the S-class, along with Morrigan Eland, she holds the SSS class in the Yokai world, she is capable of destroying the world, Mocha said, shocking the two girls who looked at Shinobu. True, I could do that, Shinobu said calmly, startling the three of them, but I don't because it's not worth it. I mean, where would I live then? Although, destroying the world is an exaggeration. I can damage the world superficially by killing all the inhabitants of Earth, but nothing more than that, she said calmly. The three of them calmed down, and then Mocha spoke. Then he belongs to you, Mocha said, sounding somewhat sad. Yes, it's mine, Kiss-Shot said, making them feel bad, but she agreed to share it, she said, leaving them bewildered. Share it? Kurumu asked. She was a succubus, and a harem, whether reverse or normal, was a fairly common topic in her world. Yes, I know how you look at him, and it's obvious you like ice, Kiss-Shot said, looking at the three of them. Tsubasa blushed, Kurumu nodded, and Mocha looked away with a slight blush. So if you're willing to be with him and not fight over attention, then I'll clear the way for you, she said, making the girls look at each other and then at Issei. I don't know why, but now I feel like an object on sale, Issei thought. Well, I have no problem with that, Kurumu mentioned. Of the three, she was the most open-minded. Huh? Tsubasa looked at her in surprise. My other self would be sad not to be near him, so it's acceptable, Mocha said without looking at anyone, as she had a deep blush on her face. Really? Just like that? Tsubasa said, still surprised at how well they took everything. I understand your confusion. You were raised differently than them, Kiss-Shot said, looking at the white cat who looked back at her. Listen, in the Yokai world, a harem is normal when an individual is powerful, noble, or belongs to a race on the verge of extinction. Issei falls into the first and second categories. Dragons disappeared many years ago, and their constant hunting 1,000 years ago led to the decline of their race. Issei would be the only dragon I've known since that time, she explained, surprising Tsubasa. Although, truthfully, that's not why I'm willing to share ice, she added, confusing everyone. So why is that? Tsubasa asked, confused. Well, let's just say she has great stamina, too much I'd say, said Kiss-Shot, blushing slightly, which confused the girls, but only Kurumu and Tsubasa blushed furiously when they realized that. The two of them looked at Issei, who was whistling, ignoring them or at least trying to. Is it really resistant? Kurumu asked with perverted eyes. You can't even imagine, especially when it comes to the time of HMP, but Kiss-Shot was silenced by Issei's hand. Okay, that's enough, nobody wants to know that, Issei said, blushing slightly, as he looked at the girls. Don't pay any attention to them. Let's go back to the dorms before we get into trouble. We'll talk more tomorrow, okay? He said, and they looked at him and nodded. Issei let go of Kiss-Shot, who looked at him with a frown, but he ignored her to approach Mocha. Well, it wasn't a long time and the circumstances weren't the best, but I'm glad to see you again, he said, smiling at the albino girl who blushed slightly as she snatched the rosary from him. HMPH, whatever, I hope the next time you bring me outside, it's for something more important, Mocha said tsundere-like as she put on her rosary and reverted to being the pink-haired Mocha. Issei caught her before she fell to the ground and sighed. Tsundere, she said, dismissing the other Mocha's attitude. Anyway, we'd better go now. Tonight was just a waste of time, she said, carrying Mocha. The girls looked at him and nodded. Well, I'll be going now. If you want to accept my proposal, feel free to approach Ice, although I doubt you reject it. Anyway, have a nice night, Kissshot said, transforming into a bat and leaving the place. Ah, this woman and her things, Issei denied, but the two girls approached him. As I said, I don't mind sharing, after all, we Succubi are open-minded, Kurumu said with a sweet smile. I may be going crazy, but I'm not going to throw away years of being in love with you just because of insecurity, so I'll accept this harem thing as strange as it may seem to me, Tsubasa said, blushing. Issei was surprised. He expected it from Kurumu, but not so much from Tsubasa. Let's take things slowly, okay? For now, let's go rest. We'll talk about this more calmly tomorrow, Issei said, and they agreed. They left, leaving the rooftop deserted. Although there was someone else watching the little show they put on recently. Interesting, who would have thought there was a dragon in this academy? Said a woman hidden in the shadows of the rooftop, watching the direction the group had left. Haha, this is going to get more and more interesting, she said, then left through the other entrance. The next day, Jin was surprised to find the photo he'd taken of Issei and Shinobu missing. The idiot had only taken one and didn't have a backup, thinking that would be enough to have Issei by the balls. Then Issei and the girls uncovered the truth about Jin. He was the infamous peeping Tom who'd been hanging around the girls' locker room since the start of the school year. Shinobu and Shizuka denied it when they saw how they were chazzing that idiot Jin, while Issei and the girls were delivering the newspapers. Thus ends another day at Yokai Academy, though unbeknownst to them, the journalism club's activities will attract unwanted attention and some trouble will soon arise. But it's still too early to know about this. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.